Marathon County Board of Supervisors to order, please. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing, followed by the pledges of allegiance. Will be a silent moment of reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. The reading of the notice, please.
An educational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors will be held at the Marathon County Courthouse Assembly Room, 500 4th Street in the city of Wausau at 7 p.m. on Thursday, August 19th, and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. I would like to request everyone, please put your cell phones and any other electronic devices on silent as to not to interrupt the meeting, and I thank you for your compliance. And we will proceed to roll call, please. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Arstead. Here. Boots.
Here.
Book. Butke.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Seiler. Conway.
Here.
Dickinson.
Here.
Draybeck.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Gaber.
Here.
Gibbs.
Here.
Gonering.
Here.
Guild.
Here.
Gums.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Krause.
Here.
Lamont.
Here.
Leahy. Lowe. Mask.
Here.
McEwen.
Here.
Opal.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Rosenberg.
Here.
Schley.
Here.
Seefelt.
Here.
Soibert.
Here.
Vole.
Here.
Van Cray.
Here.
Zhang.
Here.
Book. Seiler.
Here.
Leahy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to welcome all of the visitors that we have here. We have a very full house, even the overflows. So we will move on to public comment, and I will have some ground rules that are going to be observed. And I want to request in advance that people observe these rules, and I'm going to hold people to them. First off, we will have decorum in this room. We will have decorum in the overflow rooms that is going to be monitored. There will be no clapping, no booing, no applause. We will abide by a decorum that I expect everyone to comply with. Also, our rules for public comment are as follows. No personal attacks on any one person or individual. All remarks will be addressed to the chair. Everyone requesting to comment on public comment will receive 2 minutes of time allotted to comment. Before you start your public comment, you are to provide your name, address, city, and state. You will be advised when there's 15 seconds remaining of time, and you're asked to complete your remarks by the end of that time, and I will unmute individuals who have requested to speak that have called in. Everybody will be called in the order that they have signed up. And just so everybody is aware, we have 57 people that have requested to public comment. Again, there will be decorum held. If somebody has already provided a comment that you agree with, rather than reiterating and repeating a lot of that, please take the opportunity to say, I agree with those comments, and then make any additional comments that have not been presented. And people that have called in that are requesting, that have signed up to speak will also need to unmute themselves when they're called upon to provide their public comment. Is there any questions on those ground rules? Okay, we will start with the public comment. First individual, Nate Feeney.
My name is Nate Feeney. I live at 3806 Mount View Ave, apartment 35 in Weston. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I am the son of a law enforcement family. I am the grandson, great-grandson, and cousin to veterans throughout several of America's conflicts. I say this so that you know that honor, freedom, liberty, and justice are an integral part to who I am. The King James Bible and the Constitution of the United States are my North Stars. In Scripture, or the word Christian means Christ follower. Looking to the life of Christ, Christ always went to the neediest, the lowest, and to those who needed his love and affection the most. In Matthew 25, it says, whatever you do the least of these, you do to me. It certainly seems like a large number of our community, the members of the LGBT, people of color, and other marginalized groups have come and said there are certain things that this county can improve upon to make them feel more welcome. And I think that we should listen to them. The county board has heard many arguments saying that passing this community for all resolution would impose Marxist-Leninism in Marathon County and be the downfall of Western civilization. That's ridiculous, and we all know it. The county board is empowered to vote for a resolution that says all are welcome here. And the city of Wausau,
15 seconds.
the city of Wausau is a potential landing spot for Afghan allies working with our servicemen and women. Is this really what we want? Vote yes on this resolution.
Thank you. Next, we have Tanya Reilly.
My name is Tanya Reilly, 223828 Orchid Lane, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401. I live, work, and raise my babies in this county. I will state once again that this county does not systemically discriminate against people. The Community for All resolution has manufactured divisiveness and been a colossal waste of taxpayer money. All versions of this resolution are just a first step towards a Marxist goal of equity in which big government controls our lives and distributes wealth and rights based on its own agenda and inconsistent interpretations. For example, the current version of the resolution states that the county will condemn intimidation and hate motivations, which are very subjective topics open to interpretation. How would the county judge the following two scenarios that I recently observed? Number one, last week at the executive committee meeting, a young man got up to give his public comment opposed to the resolution. A young woman sitting near me who had just spoken in favor of the resolution of diversity, inclusion, and love began to audibly reproach the young man while he was speaking. She was spouting things such as, "You're full of the S word expletive," and also, "Shut your F word expletive mouth." Number two, a few weeks ago at a WASA committee meeting, an alderman suggested that anyone who does not agree with the agenda of the Community for All should never have kids. It appears in these two cases that people who disagree with the resolution of love are met with, dare I say it, hatred. Now, no one except Jesus Christ can fairly judge the true motivations in the hearts of these two people. However, since their behavior and words made me feel unsafe and discriminated against, would the board agree that they should be interpreted as intimidating and hate motivated? This resolution would anoint the board as judge and jury to interpret and then condemn individuals based on the subjective ideas of intimidation and hate. What would that condemnation look like? Would punitive ordinances creep into the county books? Would they lead to loss of constitutional rights such as free speech? This resolution is the first step on the path toward a larger, organized, big government socialist agenda. It is the agenda of people like a UW-Milwaukee teacher who lectured us about racism a year ago during an educational meeting. Oh, and who is funding the yard signs and t-shirts, by the way? Bottom line, this is our county, where we live, work, and raise our babies. Stop appeasing external Marxist agendas. Get back to work doing the job that county residents elected you to do.
Next, we have, I will announce the next person. Next person is Tom Krieger, and followed by that will be Patrick Bacher, excuse me.
Are you ready? Tom Krieger, 241 560 Sawmill Road, Anawa, Wisconsin. I'm speaking against the Community for All resolution. For nearly 175 years, our county had no such resolution. The extent of our diversity when I grew up in Wausau was a single black gentleman who worked at Sears. Despite the lack of a resolution, we have become a very diverse community. We have been told there's no hidden agenda. Then why the big push to have it pass? Why did the county board pay to have a presentation by Katie Ham in August explaining why the county is white privileged and full of systemic racism? Why does an unelected diversity board so badly want to include the word equity, not equality, in each and every version? If this resolution passes, we can anticipate special privileges for special groups, perhaps a hate speech ordinance. Inevitably, the county will probably embrace censorship, so no one has their feelings hurt. Do we really want to welcome all in our community? How about gang members, drug dealers, child molesters? These people do not make us a better community. I propose an alternative and simpler resolution. Marathon County welcomes all who wish to contribute in a positive manner and are committed to the enhancement of our community. No divisiveness. There's no need to define what groups are welcome in our county, just what we ask of the people who chose to become a part of it. Vote no to the current resolution of Community for All. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Patrick Bacher, and then followed by that will be Jessica Bowling.
Take that microphone off so somebody can hear.
From the individuals that are addressing the chair, the public comments.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to address the board tonight. I'm here again to speak in favor of a community for all. I'm hopeful you will hear the voices calling on you for compassion and leadership. We have compelled you with personal experiences for marginalized people and shared the economic and cultural impact that supporting a community for all would nurture in Marathon County. Your choice is clear. You either support a welcoming, diverse, and equitable community, or you do not. There are not two sides to a community for all. The supporters of CFA are sharing facts and data from the Life Report, strong input from community partner agencies, and the need for a community for all. Those against CFA are coming at you with fear, invalid arguments, and opinions which are not based in fact. Please support facts. Please support the people of Marathon County looking to you for goodwill and compassion. Please support a community for all. Thank you.
Patrick, please, Patrick, please announce your address, city and state, please.
505 South 22nd Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin.
Thank you. The next person is Jessica Bowling. She's call-in, followed by Christine Martens will be next. Jessica?
Hi, my name is Jessica Bowling. I live at 438 South 2nd Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53204, and I'm here in support for the Resolution of Community for All, representing the Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition of Wisconsin. We're a coalition that unites over 20 Wisconsin API organizations, businesses, leaders, elected officials across the state to advocate for API community. We created this organization in response to the rise of anti-Asian attacks. The most recent report from Stop API Hate on August 12th reported that there have been 9,081 incidents are reported from March 19th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. And of all the incidents reported, 4,548 occurred in 2020 and 4,533 occurred in incidents in 2021. We've also seen a number of incidents across Wisconsin, as well as many, including vandalization, verbal harassment, but we also know that many go largely underreported. These numbers are frightening and led to heightened anxiety within the Asian American community, and they don't appear to be declining. Many of us have seen the videos of the horrifying attacks against Asian elders. These videos are traumatizing to watch, and make us worried for our grandparents and parents as they move throughout the world. We're worried about our communities and our own safety on a daily basis. Stop API reported that racism was the #1 stressor for Asian Americans during the pandemic. For the first time in my life, I felt scared and anxious to go about my day-to-day life, and it's an ongoing fear that many of us experience. It's simple things that I've never had to second guess in my life. It's when I go to the gas station, I'm on edge, I'm cognizant about my surroundings. I scan where and how I can exit a situation. If something were to happen, I might avoid an area near people or skip grabbing a drink because I don't want to risk an incident. I mentally prepare what I'm going to do or say if an incident were to occur. It's an unsettling feeling to know that my presence makes people react in a violent way sometimes. For many Asian
15
Americans,
seconds.
we have been taught to be invisible. So the solution to anti-Asian hate and anti-discrimination will need to be comprehensive, and legislation alone will not be enough. But resolutions like Community for All are crucial. Acknowledging discrimination and racism publicly can help
Time.
incidents and
Time. Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have Christine Martens.
Do you want to announce the next person, too?
And next person is Noah Brown.
Good evening. My name is Christine Martens. I live at 1228 Arthur Street in Wausau, Wisconsin. And I am a 28-year resident of Marathon County. Luckily, according to the signs on the highway here in Marathon County, time is on my side. But I'm not so sure about those serving on the county board who represent me and my fellow citizens, or on my side, or on the side of area residents. You have chosen to let the noise of conspiracy theories and misunderstood acronyms drown out the voice of your constituents. You have chosen not to hear the voice of those who say they want to be included, they want to be a part of your community, but have been shut out. Voting against the Community for All resolution is a vote to silence those you wish to ignore. For Marathon County to succeed going forward into the future, all voices must be heard. Not one person is inconsequential. Each person's ideas, knowledge, skills, and experiences are not just nice to have, but are essential to thrive as a community. We are not just a bunch of people who happen to live in the same area. We have a common vision of a home that is welcoming to everyone. This resolution is the start. It is the start of welcoming new residents to help fill open jobs, to open small businesses, take part in local organizations, be a part of local politics. This resolution is the start to helping to end brain drain as we ensure our community is where our kids want to begin their careers and maybe start a family. Perhaps time is not on your side in Marathon County. It is past time to approve this resolution. It is past time for the county board to take a stand for all their residents. Thank you.
Noah Brown is next, and followed by Julian Brown.
Hi, I'm Nora Brown. I live at 917 Ethel Street, Wausau. This is not going to start out on a high note, but please bear with me because I think that high note is within our reach and that this resolution is the way there. Last week, my son Julian asked to attend the meeting of this board's executive committee. As we sat listening to the public comment and waiting for his turn to speak, we heard some despicable comments from a couple people sitting near us, notably referring to another speaker as well as to my son, a 13-year-old with an extremely offensive slur. Fast forward a few days, and I was trying to come up with a response to an online comment on the situation. So I say out loud, does it make more sense to say he is literal garbage or he is literally garbage? But wait, because this was my 13-year-old son's response. I don't think either one, Mom. He isn't garbage, he's a person. I don't think he's a nice person, and I certainly don't agree with his views, but he's a person. Seriously? This is a grown man who just bullied a child, and that's the child's response. But he's so much better than I am. But that's really just it, isn't it? We're all people, and we all deserve to be seen and treated the way Julian sees and treats people. I don't pretend for a second that this resolution will stop people from being racist and bigoted, but what it does do is set a standard for our county, that all people are worthy of respect and kindness, that diversity is actively welcomed and encouraged, and that inclusivity and, yes, equity are vital to the future strength and growth of our area. This resolution lays out what it means to strive for these things. And the comments that we heard at last week's meeting show just how much we need it to pass. This resolution is Marathon County. It is all of us at our best, and it is what we should aspire to. A vote in favor of the Community for All resolution lays the groundwork not for future trouble, as some
15
people are
seconds.
afraid of, but for growth and prosperity for Marathon County, and for health, safety, and opportunity for all of its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Julian Brown, and then Aaron Crawford will be up next.
Hi, I'm Julian Brown, 917 Ethel Street, Wausau, Wisconsin. I came to the meeting last week and I was extremely surprised at how uneasy I felt sitting in that room. I don't know how people can direct so much hate to a resolution that's only objective is to make everyone feel welcome and safe. I think it is silly that this is even up for discussion, and I truly believe that a vote for this resolution is one step closer to making this a community for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Crawford, followed by Joanne Leonard. Aaron Crawford is on line. Aaron, your address, please, and then go ahead. Aaron, are you on mute? Please unmute.
You're unmuted. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
1 second, please, Aaron. Go ahead, Aaron. Aaron, are you still there? We cannot hear you. Aaron, have you unmuted? Aaron, we'll come back to you. For some reason, we cannot hear you. We will come back. Joanne Leonard, followed by Gail
Chair
Marshall.
Gibbs, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Chair Gibbs? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yes.
thank you. Aaron Crawford, 234905 Clay Road, Anawa, Wisconsin, 54408. Can I begin?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm a Marathon County resident and taxpayer. I've been paying close attention to this resolution from its inception at the very beginning. Initially, the resolution asking that the county board certify that our county is systemically racist and that we're filled with white privilege. This and subsequent versions went through many rounds of changes from people on both sides of the aisle to create joint resolutions. Nothing was ever approved and moved forward up until now, where the board has left version B on the table with the possibility an open door for more amendments. But what amendments? Unfortunately, there will never be a compromise because the DAC is not interested in that, but only their political agenda.
Is Marathon County feeling more united or divided by this resolution? Of course, many argue division. The left wants to control the message and shut out any opposing sides. Though it has been a long road, thankfully, what's happening is waking up residents across this county and exposing the direction the board, its policies, and that of the DAC are taking and what their end game is. As I stated before in my public comment last week, what continues to be troubling are all the supporters that are obsessed with the resolution, that have zero tolerance for anyone else that does not agree with the details found within it. They'll try to shut you down, just like the left is doing across the nation. There is truly no compromising with the other side. You're either for them or against them. Like I mentioned last time, they've tried to silence one of my clients, cancel a local event with false registrations, shut down a petition with spam, and now here we are yet again, with the left launching another ground game using our county's own resources to monopolize public comment time
15
for many
seconds.
people who do not represent the taxpayers of this very county. In conclusion, I encourage you to please not kick the can down the road and entertain any further additions, amendments, or versions of the Community for All resolution. A vote for any
Time.
version of the CFA is a vote against the DAC. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Joanne Leonard, followed by Gail Marshall.
Good evening. I'm Joanne Leonard, 923 Maple Hill Road, Wausau, Wisconsin. I hope this is the last time I have to speak against this divisive issue. Taking all the so-called divisive words out of the resolution hasn't changed the original intent. It calls out certain groups of people as special and need to be protected. It is unfortunate that 15 months of our elected officials' time has been spent on an ideologically motivated and unnecessary resolution. Don't forget how this started. 90% of the population in this county charged and indoctrinated with white privilege and systemic racism, hardworking people of all races, none of which has been proven. Quotes by people of color and minorities, ethnicities in local business and newspaper articles portray this community as a welcoming, friendly community who offers them opportunities they wouldn't have in larger cities. Do those articles sound like a hateful community to you? My best friend's son is gay. Her son told her, quote, "He is sick of being singled out. He just wants to live a good life and contribute to society," unquote. How many people out there feel the same way? We have done our part to admit there are those that are few that are actual racists or bigots. Speak out at the time. Don't judge the entire community by those few. There is no need to dissect version B, written by masters of word manipulation. Call it for what it really is, a way to follow the Marxist movement by dividing our community, cause chaos, develop policies against oppressors. Soon everybody's freedom of speech is gone. We are now a community divided as unwelcoming, fearful of what we say, looking over our shoulders and categorized by 101 ways people can be judged. Is this really the goal for the Diversity Affairs Commission? A commission with
15
one
seconds.
ideological view. I will not be shamed because I don't understand today's woke words. I'm asking the county board members to vote no on any form of this resolution next Tuesday. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gail Marshall, and then followed that by Eric Jensen.
Thank you, Chairman Gibbs. Gail Marshall, 4503 Estate Drive, Weston. Identity politics is dividing our communities. Rather than seeing each other as Americans, we're now checking identity boxes. For what purpose? While equity has been removed from this last document, it is still the Diversity Affairs Commission's mission statement to, quote, to achieve racial and ethnic equity and advocate for minority populations throughout Marathon County. Voting yes is an affirmation to promoting equity, not equality. And the recent push to measure all department outcomes by race is the result. Here is the last month's Child Protective Services maltreatment report by race. Here's also the out-of-home.
Gail, please direct your comments to the chair.
The out-of-home placement by race. Every outcome is being measured by race. Individuals of all races have problems that require help from social services. Will children be denied help when we want equity? Will there be quotas? The social fabric of this country is being stressed, and it's fraying. Forgive me, but I'm a quilter. And this is what the fabric looks like today. All of the racial things have stressed us. A better way is to recognize the beauty in every individual, all colors making a beautiful print of Marathon County, just like this piece of fabric. Mr. Chairman, treating county residents as individuals rather than part of their group identity will help every person to
15
take
seconds.
personal responsibility to be the best person that they can, leading us to be the healthiest, most prosperous, and safest county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Eric Jensen, followed by Tina Jensen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Eric.
It's Eric Jensen, 178808 Pineview Road, Burnham, Wisconsin. As you can see, I'm a current resident of Marathon County. I've lived in this county on and off for over 16 years. I grew up in this city and community. I am an OIF, OEF, and HOA veteran. I have lived all over the world in many countries and have been exposed to many cultures where I have witnessed true separation of peoples based on religion, color, and gender. In these countries, I have seen legalized slavery, a medical doctor serving as a janitor because of the color of his skin, and ultimately families separated forever because of this oppression. I understand that people feel that way are being oppressed here and now. Some might serve on this very board, may feel that way. Was it always like this, or do some people not like you because of your personality? As this relates to the topic of community for all, you know, that does have a nice ring to it, a community for all. But wait a minute, we're not a community for all. Weren't we not a community for all before? Are we not the same welcoming community that my family of different colors and genders are and have been welcomed into? So let me share some of their perspectives. My sister-in-law is from Tanzania. She shared a story of experiences with me years ago. Growing up, she experienced people being killed for different shaped noses or for being too dark or too light. When I asked her about what she thought of the American culture and whether she thought we were racist here, she laughed and said, no way, not even close. You tell those people to come to my country and see what racism really is. Maybe that example is too extreme, but it does make the point. Wait, what is the point of this resolution? The creators say it's not what we think it is, and some of it might be true or it might not be. What is true is the very foundation of what comes next when this gets sent through. It is already stated by our supervisors as a starting point to work off of, quote, work on what exactly? Creating laws with criminal consequences if you've hurt feelings. If I had $1 for every time my feelings are hurt by someone
15
brown, black,
seconds.
white, olive skin, or any gender, I would have retired years ago with these dollars. I have said this before, I'll say it again. You cannot change the heart of man with this paper, but the heart of man can be deceitful and evil. Fortunately, Jesus can save that, and only he can. I support Supervisor Mask's stance on this matter. We already have a community for all, and we do not need a resolution to tell us that. Please vote no.
Next, Tina Jensen, followed by Joel Lewis. Tina?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. Address, please.
Thank you. 178808 Pineview Road, Burnhamwood 54414.
Thank you. Go ahead.
People across our great nation are rising up against the ideologies that hate America and hate our Constitution. This resolution seems to be one of them. I would also like to make note that obviously there's people that aren't from our community speaking tonight. I would like to just bring up two kind of common sense questions, critical thinking questions that hopefully the supervisors have thought of. And I'm really glad the meetings are recorded so people can go back and listen, because if the resolution does pass, I want every single parent to come and listen to the question that I'm going to ask. We all know that the resolution will not stop. They want it to become a mandate, and then an ordinance and a law, and I don't know who's going to take care of that later. So the two questions I want to ask is, first, you know, this is really about the LGBTQ+, and I hope everyone has done their due diligence on the acronym. Every single person listening, please go research what the plus means at the end of those letters. Every time you spout up an acronym, you should know exactly what it stands for. The plus includes age, fluidity, and if you have any questions on what age fluidity means, again, do your due diligent research. It means pedophilia. How many parents in this room and who are listening are okay with that heinous hate crime against children? I mean, I don't know anybody that is, and it makes me feel very unsafe. It seems that the
15
CFA
seconds.
resolution is okay with that. So every single district supervisor that votes yes to that is saying that it's okay in our community. And the second is who gets to decide on what is hate speech and what is not hate speech. Is it the DAC
Time.
or certain people?
Time. Thank you, Tina. Next, Joel Lewis. Joel, your call in. Joel, you're on mute. You want to unmute? Joel, we'll come back to you. We have Jackson Seeger. And then Micah Jenkins next.
Hi, my name is Jackson Seeger, and honestly, I don't feel comfortable giving my address out loud. You guys do have it written on a paper, so if that's okay, that I continue.
No, you have to provide your address to the
When
audience.
when did that become a rule? Just wondering.
It's in our board rules.
Okay. Well, my name is Jackson Seeger. My address is 1200 South 50th Avenue, apartment 8, and that's in Wausau. I identify as a queer transgender man, and I am the founder of Wausau Trans Fam Alliance. I also sit on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee with the American Red Cross of Wisconsin and the Advocacy Committee for the YWCA. Last week, Thursday, a local business owner seemed to think it was appropriate to call a 13-year-old the F slur when he decided to speak up for this resolution. What is that? Someone at last week's meeting made this comment when my friend, a transgender person, decided to make a public comment in support of this resolution. This person, whom I personally know, decided not to attend tonight's meeting because she felt uncomfortable and unsafe. At the age of 19, I was working at a local business and a coworker found out I was transgender. In return of them finding out, I was beat in front of my boss, and when I tried to report it, the facility accused me of lying and stirring the pot, even though I had a black eye and a bruised jaw. You say this is a community for all, but how is this true when I cannot go to work without the fear of being beat? How is this true when I cannot go out in public without having the F slur thrown my way? How is this true when my best friend and I
15 seconds.
have to discuss what to do if one of us became victim of a hate crime? This is not a community for all, and the people who say it have most likely never experienced discrimination when it comes to the color of their skin or who they love or what is in
Time.
their pants. I ask you to vote yes.
Thank you. Micah Jenkins. Followed by Mary Tao.
Thank you. My name is Maki Jenkins. My address is 1415 Hughes Avenue in Weston. I agree with the previous comment. As a black trans woman, I fear every day of my life. I believe that we can make a better community, and a community for all is not a Marxist dogma or anything of that nature. It's just saying we belong. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mary Tao and then Bruce Grau. Mary?
Good evening, Mary Tao, 506 Sherman Street, Wausau, Wisconsin. Thank you, Chairman Gibbs, for giving me the opportunity to give public comments tonight. All of you in the room are equally important and valuable to our community. This is my story and my lived experience as a Hmong American woman living in Marathon County. I did everything possible growing up, earning my education, concentrated my career in a STEM field, mostly dominated by men. In the past, earned all your votes to represent your voices on the school board and the city council. I volunteer in this community, promote Marathon County. My husband and I have started businesses in this community, continue to raise our children here, and not once was I ever attracted, retained, and employed by any organization here in Marathon County in the 11 years that I've moved here. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've received countless reportings of Asian hate crimes experienced by my fellow Hmong members of our community. From firearm being flashed at us at stares of disgust, to being coughed at, raced off the streets in our vehicles, or physically charged at, all acts of intimidation. I have fought the battles of our school board, putting forth referendums that would further marginalize the ethnic minority, the working class, and those at an economic disadvantage. Policies and resolutions that would further divide us and not unite us. Have you seen the anonymous letter that Yilang Shong at the Hmong American Center received targeting Hmong people? That it's not our ways that matter, that we should be accepting other people's ways of life? I have lived out the intimidation and trauma that comes with not being like the rest of my colleagues on the city council because I didn't behave, think, or act like them. I've been a part of many circles in this
15
community,
seconds.
only to be leveraged and used and feel as though I'm just a good checkbox because of the color of my skin. I hope that all of you support the resolution being brought forth next week on the 24th, because I support this Community for All resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bruce Grau, and followed by Steve Frazier.
Bruce Grau, 1115 North 10th Street, Wausau. The last Marathon County United Way's Life report showed only 44% of county residents were satisfied with how tolerant their community is. 37% said they experienced some kind of discrimination in the previous year in terms of race, sexual discrimination, and age, particularly those of younger ages. That was a 17-point increase from 2017. This is what the county board must decide. Is this acceptable or not? To decide that this is acceptable acknowledges that it's okay to blatantly disregard a fellow human being's pain, that it's advantageous to continue to silence and hide sections of our community, that the vitriolic, fear-mongering fantasy of a Marxist, anti-family, anti-Christian apocalypse, a groundless narrative scripted by a very well-financed political initiative, bears merit. The alternative requires having a selfless concern of well-being of others, a core aspect of virtually all religious traditions and humanism. It requires understanding that when the bottom is lifted, everyone rises. Marginalized groups face disproportionate poverty, exposure to pollution, and prison, having a negative upstream impact on all but the richest and most protected class in our society. A selfless concern for the well-being of others is how many define love. Now is your opportunity to choose love over hate and divisive, politically motivated vitriol. Show our community that you listen to the ones who are hurting most. Acknowledge their presence and support their
15
contribution
seconds.
to making Marathon County a preferred place, a beloved community that takes care of all of its own. Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Frazier, followed by Latonya Campbell.
Steve Frazier, 7102 Evergreen Street in Schofield. Last week, I stood up here and declared that this resolution is racist Marxism. I stand by that statement. You can put a dress on a pig and it looks nice, but it's still a pig. You can call this resolution diversity, but it's still Marxist. Using words similar to racial equity or systemic inequality, you're using words out of the Critical Race Theory Handbook, which is a true Marxist document. Last week, I was chastised by an individual that I really didn't understand what racism or Marxism is, and that I was doing this out of fear. I was offended. But after careful consideration, I realized he was absolutely right. I am afraid. I'm afraid that we are losing the Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded on. I'm afraid that we are losing the moral compass that has guided us through the last several centuries. I'm afraid that we're going to judge people by their character, not by their character, but instead by their race, color, or sexual orientation. That's what this resolution does. You can't legislate morality. There is good and evil in the world. But by moving forward with this resolution, we take one step closer to trying to do just that. The next step, in 6 months, a year, 2 years, someone on this board will decide that there is too much racism in Marathon County, and we need to take action. Let's create a Department of Anti-Racism. We'll re-educate all those racists, who, by the way, we have now identified through the words in this
15
resolution.
seconds.
The Marxist revolution is knocking on our door. Are you going to answer the door, or are you going to slam the door shut and embrace freedom? God bless America, and God bless Marathon County.
Thank you. Latonya Campbell is next, and then followed by Betty Dotseth.
Thank you. Latonya Campbell, 808 North 2nd Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please come up to the mic a little closer, Latonya. Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Many ask why the resolution is so important. They state it does not change anything, that is just a piece of paper. I thought I would explain to you why we have been continuing to fight to get the resolution passed. The reason that the resolution is important, it is because it seeks to bring awareness to challenges some community members face. Challenges alone they cannot rectify, but need the support of leadership in the community. Marathon County proudly aspires to be the safest and healthiest community. I too desire the same outcome. As community leaders, we assess what is needed in areas we can improve. As a county, we do better when our most vulnerable do better, and in many cases, again, they cannot do it alone. Some members of the community are telling us they don't feel safe, accepted, or welcome in this community. Change happens from top down. This is our opportunity to show them that we hear their cries. We validate their experiences, and we commit to doing better. I have heard many quotes of Dr. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. I also have the same dream. I believe that passing the amended version of Resolution B, which may not be on the docket, as a community, we can finally start manifesting that dream.
Thank you. Next we have Betty. Did you say that? Dotseth. And follow that, Jack Hogendijk.
My name is Betty Dotseth. I live at 227815 Sharptail Road, Wausau, Wisconsin. I've been a resident of Marathon County going on 30 years. Plus, I was a Marathon County employee for a number of years as well. When I first arrived, I immediately got involved in the homeless situation since the area offered very little adequate low-income housing, a situation that has not improved over these many years. Interestingly, we were also chosen as a location for many Hmong folks who escaped the Vietnam to the settlements in Laos. Welcoming those folks whose lifestyles were so different from ours was interesting and sometimes bumpy. But once we got to know them, they became our friends and we learned so much from them. Since retiring, I became a host parent and friend to many students around the world of all skin colors who went to NTC, Honduras, Mexico, Haiti, Germany, the Netherlands, India, South Korea, Dubai. All of these students agreed, and I mean all of these students agreed with us that this part of Wisconsin is inclusive, warm and welcoming, and a great place to live. I've been very involved in this community during the years, and I do not remember once that I personally witnessed any quote-unquote hate-motivated violence. And if I did, it would have been a rare occurrence for sure, perhaps triggered by the drug-related incidents today, decline in moral values, lack of adequate parenting, that's prevalent today. I'm personally disgusted and dismayed that our local leaders find it necessary to, quote unquote, condemn any intimidation
15
or
seconds.
hate-motivated violence as stated in this resolution. These words are inflammatory and divisive. We can have a much shorter, more positive resolution if we need one at all.
Time, thank you. Jack Hogendijk is next, follow that by Jim Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jack Hogendijk, Hilltop Road, Wausau, Wisconsin.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Could we get the speaker's address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. 4508 Hilltop Road, Wausau, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a member of a large international service club here in Wausau. I joined that club 2 years ago because I love what they stand for. Their motto is service above self. Each week we meet, we have an invocation, a pledge to the flag, and we recite the 4-way test of this international club. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? When we meet, we don't dwell on our differences, and we have plenty, I imagine. I suspect there are those in the club who are Democrats and Republicans. There are members who have different lifestyles. We are diverse in regard to age and ethnicity. I think there may even be members in our club who are not Packer fans. But you know what makes this club so great? Those things don't matter. We are all together serving the community, doing things like reading to the kids in school, serving meals to those who can't get out of their house, picking up litter on the highways, raising funds for student scholarships, and so many other things that are in service to the community. This club comes together to celebrate and work for the things we share in common. Those perceived differences don't matter. This resolution, Mr. Chairman, is divisive. It insists on enumerating certain protected classes or groups of people, which only creates division as it leads to providing special rights and privileges to some over others. This resolution would be much more palatable if it ended with, quote, Marathon County Board of Supervisors hereby reaffirms its commitment to strengthening our community for all people and declares Marathon County a community for all, and stopped right there. But no, it has to start enumerating groups that need special protection, but not all are mentioned. Some are left out. For instance, you know one group that's not enumerated is the unborn.
Thank
you, Mr. Chairman.
Next, Mr. Jim Russell, followed by Cindy Russell.
Jim Russell, 5907 Tricia Avenue, Weston, Wisconsin. Wisconsin Administrative Code, the EEOC, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act provides prohibitions against the practice of discrimination for every item mentioned in Resolution B, plus many, many more. The question is, why has the Marathon County Board spent 17 months on this clearly redundant resolution? On face value, version B appears to be an innocent statement. What are the future implications of the community for all? Is this just a starting point for the extreme radicalization sweeping the United States? We do not know and are not being told. We can speculate. Across this nation, we are seeing extreme violence by groups attempting to force their ideologies and worldviews onto people who do not care for their indoctrination. Recently, a 10-year veteran school teacher, Laura Morris, resigned in front of the school board of Loudoun County, Virginia. She had some interesting things to say concerning woke, transgender, and critical race theory emphasis in the school curriculum. In one of the equity training sessions, she was told, white Christian able-bodied females currently have power in our schools, and this has to change. The superintendent reminded teachers a dissenting opinion on the curriculum is not allowed in their public or private life, and asked them to spy and report on one another if doing so. One of our national mottos is E pluribus unum, out of many one. Is diversity always a good idea? Does it strengthen a nation? Diversity is of no value when it offers preferential treatment for one group over another. When this is done, it merely becomes another form of racism. A nationally known advocate of critical race theory writes, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. Contrast this statement with, we all deserve the same rights, but no one individual or group deserves more. Groups such as BLM, Antifa, LGBTQ are not satisfied with equal treatment, but want preferential treatment. Vote no on this resolution and put it to rest.
Thank you. Cindy Russell, followed by Kira Tomczyk.
Good evening. Cindy Russell, 5907 Tricia Avenue, Weston, Wisconsin. During a previous meeting, I listened to people of alternate lifestyles complain they were bullied by some members of this community. This is unfortunate and wrong, but laws and resolutions are clearly not going to prevent this behavior. As part of the critical race theory, the assumption is the only cure for past discrimination is present discrimination. This will only revive racism and divide our nations and communities. People across this nation are attacked for their religious beliefs. We have seen groups trying to force their ideologies and worldviews onto people who do not care for their indoctrination. Hobby Lobby, a Christian-based business, was recently sued and paid $220,000 to a male employee who wanted to use the women's bathroom. Hobby Lobby denied the use of the women's bathroom and asked that he use the single stall bathroom. This is where we do not follow the science. Jack Phillips, a Masterpiece Cake Shop, was sued because he declined to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple and for a man identifying as a woman in spite of other cake makers willing to provide a cake for them. Baronelle Stutzman of Arlene Flowers was sued because she declined to participate in a same-sex ceremony. The cake baker and the florist were chosen because of their Christian views. How far do we carry this line of thinking? Should a Muslim caterer be required to provide
15 seconds.
for a Christian wedding? The community for all is an innocent-sounding phrase. However, in reality, it is a stepping stone to infringe on the rights of some to please others. If the sole purpose of the community...
Time, please.
Please vote no.
Thank you. Kara Tomczyk, followed by Angelino Tenorino.
Hello, my name is Kira Eli Tomczyk, and I go by he, him, his pronouns. I live on North 1st Street in Wausau. I identify as Native American.
Total address, please.
North 1st Street, Apartment 4, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. I identify as a Native American, queer, and transgender person. And as someone who is speaking for the trans community, it is really hurtful to hear others speak so toxically about us. Today, I'm asking you to please pass the Community for All resolution countywide. This resolution can be our mission statement. It can't just be Wausau trying to make the area and surrounding communities safe and inclusive for all. It has to be all of us working together. And again, this is not a political issue. This is not about what political party you affiliate with, and this is not about some conspiracy theory or agenda. This is basic human respect, love, and kindness. There's no special treatment we're getting. We just want basic respect that everybody else gets. We want to celebrate our differences and learn more from each other. We do not have to be such a divided county as this has brought us. The Community for All resolution gives me and my friends and neighbors of marginalized communities the opportunity to be represented and appreciated in this space. This gives us a voice against the discrimination, hate crimes, name-calling, and misgendering. Just last week, I was walking downtown and a truck passed me and called me the F slur in regards to the LGBTQ community. I know people in this room who feel that it is okay to use that type of hateful language, even as grown adults. But this resolution tells them that that behavior will not be tolerated. Marathon County is becoming more diverse, and we need to keep up with the times.
15 seconds.
We have to adjust and reform in order for this county to be the best it can be. If you don't think racism, homophobia, transphobia does not exist here, then you are part of the problem. Please pass this resolution for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Angelito Tenorino. Call in.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the County Board, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you for having me. My name is Angelito Tenorio. I live at 2147 South 67th Place, LaSalle, Wisconsin, 53219. I'm the proud son of Filipino immigrants. I'm a proud veteran. I served in the Wisconsin Army National Guard. I'm a proud product of the UW system. I've worked in politics and now work for an environmental organization called Wisconsin Conservation Voters. I'm also an alderman here in my hometown of West Dallas. So I understand how difficult local government and how fulfilling it can be too in working with the community and your neighbors and your family and friends. I come here representing the Filipino American Association of Wisconsin and the Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition of Wisconsin to speak in favor of the Community for All resolution. I believe it's important that local governments pass this sort of resolution because people of color, the LGBTQ community, people who have been marginalized for far too long are hurting. We feel overlooked and underserved, and we need this visibility. We feel unheard, we feel unseen, and I think it's really important that we pass this Community for All resolution here in Marathon County, because what happens in Marathon County affects the rest of Wisconsin. I truly believe that we're all interconnected and that we need to do work as local leaders to look out for our neighbors, to look out for our family, to look out for our friends, and make sure that no one gets left behind regardless of the background, regardless of the race, religion, gender identity, documentation status, and so much more. So I encourage you, members of the County Board,
15
to pass
seconds.
this Community for All resolution unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Kelly Grimshield, followed by Felicity Niles.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Kelly Grimscheid, and I reside at 200925 Wonderland Drive in Knowlton, Mosney. No governing body, large or small, should ever imply superiority of race or gender. We are all equal under God, the human race. This resolution undermines that wonderful declaration he made in Galatians. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Please use discernment. Pray for it. Don't be a party to the evils of racism or class warfare. God says in Isaiah, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness." This resolution is ungodly and wrong. Please vote no. And in the future, I would encourage the board members to avoid passing any resolution that comes out of the Diversity Affairs Commission. With their persistence in agenda pushing has created divisiveness in our community. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Next, we have Felicity Niles. Supposed to be in person. Is Felicity here? Okay, she had signed up to be in person. Next, we have Becky Teichero, followed by Rachel Busella.
Hello, I'm Becky Teichero, 236-851 Sunrise Road, out in the town of Easton. I'm a Marathon County resident, mother of four, and business owner. I join the masses of vigilant parents and citizens who can see through this resolution, and I've been paying close attention to it from the very first version. The consecutive versions, in my opinion, are merely softened and coaxed into a more casual language so the general public will accept it. I feel like no amendment should be proposed or accepted. The whole resolution, in my opinion, should go. It's unnecessary and divisive. If I had to pick one thing that I strongly disagree with about the resolution, it's the way everything is classified. As my former speakers showed, the strips of fabric. It's putting everybody in a box. Who wants to be boxed in? The very last detail of the end of this resolution is a plus sign. At the end of this, the sexual orientation alphabet, LGBTQ+. Allow me to bring some emphasis here. I've been really researching this, not in that plus category, obviously. And it's inclusive of MAPS, male attracted persons, pedophiles. In 2018, the Virtuous Pedophile Organization, which is an oxymoron in my opinion, approached the National LGBT Organization to be recognized with them for their sexual preferences. Okay, so really, Marathon County, do we want this here? Are you okay with this? Will schools and daycares in our community have to be inclusive of MAPS on staff? If there's any power to these words in this resolution, this is going to be
15
scary.
seconds.
Let me show you one conversation I found in the research. This is a doctor, and he's having the conversation, and this is the time in 2018 when they were trying to consider it. He says, "I'm a scientist and a liberal. I do not believe there are such lines."
Time.
We do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Busella, call in. Rachel, please unmute. Rachel, you may have to, if you're muted, *6 to unmute. Rachel, are you there? We will come back and try to get to you again. Next, we have Ashley Vargas Jensen. Call in. Ashley, are you there? Ashley, *6 to unmute. If you're calling in on the phone, if you're using WebEx, you should find the unmute. Okay, we're going to move on to the next person. Ankita Tesh. Annika Tesh.
Good evening. My name is Annika Tesh, and I live at 117 Weston Avenue in Wausau. I am here today in support of the Community for All resolution. This resolution acknowledges and celebrates the diversity that already exists in our county. The inclusion of all members of our community should not be controversial. Diversity is one of the 5 Marathon County core values and is described on the county website as actively welcoming and valuing people with different perspectives and experiences. While not everyone experiences discrimination and mistreatment, some in our community have, and others will in the future. People are targeted based on characteristics such as race, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, age, or disability. The Community for All resolution sends a message to these individuals that they are seen, welcome, supported, and valued here in Marathon County. These messages are important and matter deeply to these marginalized community members. This resolution helps us in our continued progress towards the goals of health, safety, and prosperity for all Marathon County residents. Please vote in favor of the Community for All resolution when it comes before the board next week. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Mia Zhang. Call in. Mia?
Hello, good evening, Chair. My name is Maya Zhang. My address is 3105 Sherman Street, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 54701. I'm here on behalf of Hmong American Leadership and Economic Development and many of my family members who resides in Wausau and Marathon County. HALE's mission is to build leadership and increase economic prosperity for Hmong Americans and AAPI by providing education, expanding networks, and elevating social equity. We envision a community where everyone has equal opportunities for education that is equitable, economic prosperity, and full community participation to maintain a healthy life. Today, we ask that as leaders of Marathon County, you do the right thing and vote yes to the Communities for All resolution. During the pandemic, minorities and communities of color have been disproportionately impacted. My elders feared for their life. They heard slurs as "go back to your country." They fear having to walk around in their own communities because people feel this community belongs to them. We continue to be the stereotype. What about everyone else who made this their home, made Marathon County their home? What about their safety? This resolution should not be about division, but about accountability. It's a first start to dismantling systemic racism. Stop using diversity and inclusion as a way to look great and check off the box. Diversity and inclusion is not a trend. It impacts lives of human beings. Tonight, we're watching you. Our nation is watching you on how you choose to lead. You can walk your talk by voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lisa Ort Sundergaard, and followed by Ryan Wistine.
Thank you, Chairman Gibbs. I reside at 220180 Pleasant Drive in Edgar. Apologize for not having my glasses on. I believe that most of the people sitting in this room and on the board tonight are good and decent people, whether you support or oppose the Community for All resolution. I believe the majority of people in Marathon County want to be kind, compassionate, and loving. However, I believe that the CFA resolution is like so many other issues facing our community and our country and has been unfairly politicized. It is simplistic and false to say that the resolution divided our community. Politics have divided our citizens for years now. We are no longer able to express ideas without one party or the other turning it into a political battlefield. We have lost sight of the common good and our collective responsibility for each other. Quite frankly, we have lost our common sense, and many of us have lost our ability to think for ourselves. We listen to talking heads on both sides of the political aisle that have a clear agenda, and that agenda is not to solve problems. That agenda is to win at the ballot box no matter the cost. Despite my belief that the majority of people in this room are decent, good people, at the executive meeting last week, one adult, a local businessman, called a young teen a fag. He may have thought that only the person he said it to heard his ugly attack, but that's not true. Several people around him heard the slur, including the teen it was directed at and his mother. This kind of ugly behavior is the stuff that makes me weary and fearful for our community, especially vulnerable people that the Community for All resolution was written to support. It is unequivocally wrong for an adult to exercise such sheer disregard for a child by uttering an ugly slur against a child who had the courage to
15
stand
seconds.
before a room full of adult strangers to participate in his democratic process by expressing his opinion in a respectful manner. This businessman has vehemently spoken against the Community for All resolution. His behavior last week is
Time.
a perfect example of exactly why the board needs to pass the Community for All resolution.
Thank you. Ryan Wistine, call in.
Ryan Wistine, 1924 Fairmount Avenue. So recently, the New York Times did a story published an article on this very resolution, a version of this resolution, and Marathon County found itself in the midst of deciding, what was going on, what was happening. Is this resolution going to pass? And what I was hearing, and what I continue to hear is fear. I'm hearing a lot of fear. The guy who sells noodles, he said he was very fearful. So fear will hold us back, fear of diversity, fear of people who look different, people who have different skin colors, people who sound different. It's fear of changing demography. Recent census data shows Marathon County grew at less than 3%. In order to experience growth and embrace the post-millennial economy, Marathon County will need to embrace diversity and show that we are welcoming to all. For the future of Marathon County, I ask the board to vote in favor of the resolution. I ask the board to remember Wisconsin's watching, the New York Times is watching, the world is watching. Make the right decision.
Name was Ryan Wistine, he did say it, is 1924 Fairmont Street, Wausau, Wisconsin. Next, we have Jeff Todd, and followed by Laverne Rondo. Jeff Todd, call in.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Jeff, go ahead. Please
Thank you.
identify your address. Go ahead.
My name is Jeffrey Todd. I'm a resident of Marathon County, residing at 1525 47 Oriole Lane in Wausau, Wisconsin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity to present testimony. The comments I offer tonight are my own. For context, however, I am currently serving as the volunteer manager of the First Presbyterian Church Wausau Free Clinic. I've been a ruling elder in the Presbyterian Church for 40 years. Moreover, I am a senior public health policy fellow with the Wisconsin Institute for Public Policy and Service, a retired medical practice executive at Aspirus, a former county and state public health officer, and a former elected official. I wish to offer my full support and endorsement of proposed resolution of Community for All. While I would have liked to see the resolution adopted in its earlier form, I do understand and can appreciate the desire to be measured and non-confrontational in approach when addressing such sensitive issues as inclusion, diversity, race relations, equity, and equal opportunity. As a person of faith, public health professional, and elected official, I worked my entire adult life trying to address racial, socioeconomic, and other disparities in public and private life, factors that have been clearly shown by research to impact health and well-being. The very existence of the Wausau Free Clinic is a testament to that. Virtually all of our patients are marginalized people. This resolution, while not perfect, is a step in the right direction. It states what we believe, what we value, and what we strive to be as a county government. It does not belabor past transgressions or failings, but suggests we can do better, and we can. Nelson Mandela
15
said that
seconds.
for healing and reconciliation to proceed, we must be willing to acknowledge past mistakes, ask forgiveness, seek common ground, and build upon that. Perhaps this is the next step. I applaud the county board for taking this courageous first step and support the resolution presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Laverne Rondo, followed by Ethel Quisler.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Hello, my name is Laverne Rondo. I live at 5403 JM Place, Weston, Wisconsin, and have lived in Marathon County for a good part of my life. There have been both ups and downs in my life, due not always, but for the most part, to my own choices. You can wake up every day and look for the wrong sideways glance, the wrong tone of voice, or an off comment. I'm sorry, that is life. Human beings have faults. We don't always act accordingly to our Creator's commandments, even though we should. But that doesn't mean that we are an inherently racist community that requires our county government to pass a resolution that decides for us, yes, how to act appropriately and what the consequences will be if we do not. That is oppression. The immigrants who first came to this country for a better life were not always welcomed. The Irish, Italians, Polish, and Germans were called really unpleasant names and had to fight for their piece of the American dream. They didn't expect their new country to ensure access to that better life. They had to have a sponsor or a job when they arrived here. They formed communities, supported one another, and worked hard to achieve that dream. They were proud to assimilate, learn the English language, and call themselves Americans, even though they kept their own culture. Once you start looking at yourself as a victim, it becomes a mindset. The Diversity Committee is trying to cement that mindset. We need to get back to the family structure as the
15
core
seconds.
foundation of our community, not the government. Then kids will have the support that they truly need to become happy, healthy, productive citizens. Please vote no on this divisive resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ethel Quisler, followed by David Baker.
Good evening. My name is Ethel Quisler. Thank you, Chairman.
Address,
I know
please.
you're asking for my address. Just give me a moment to settle. My current address is 417 Lazy Branch Drive, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401. A year ago today, I would say homeless. So when the person who came up earlier and said they were uncomfortable giving their address for their own safety reasons, maybe that should be looked at again. What would I say? I had to be registered somewhere to be homeless? So I've been feeling discriminated against as a large woman. Felt discriminated against because I'm educated. I have a gay child. I happen to be Catholic. I'm divorced. I'm female. The reason I came here tonight is I wanted to find for myself what's going on. Because I read as much as I could, listened to as much as I could. And did anybody ever call the city of New York to see what they had or the Times? Because obviously they probably have a model that we should look at and compare to, because right now this kind of smells like Citizen United. I want to know that it is what it is, and we cannot legislate feelings. And when I called the mayor's office in the city of New York today, I learned that they have a commission similar to the EEOC. So I'm wondering if this is the correct vehicle to be using this resolution. I feel for everybody. I understand discrimination. And I wrote a lot of really groovy stuff here, and it's kind of just not seeming as important because I don't want to repeat what somebody else has already said, because that was a directive or request at the beginning.
15 seconds, please.
I do want to clear something. I had misread something on social media with Facebook. It said that Joanne Leonard, I thought it said simply tabled the discussion. Tonight she clarified me that was tabled for indefinitely. I don't think it should be indefinite.
Time, please.
Just more education done.
Thank you. We have David Baker, followed by Bruce Bohr.
Thanks.
Dave Baker. I live at 690 Happy Hollow Road in Cornwall. Chairman Gibbs, Vice Chairman McEwen.
Mic is not on. Just a second. We'll start your time over, but mic is not on.
We on now?
Now we're on. Thank you.
Dave Baker. I live at 690 Happy Hollow Road in Cornwall. Chairman Gibbs, Vice Chairman McEwen, board members. I emailed many of you a draft of my original comments, which made the point that a yes vote on the CFA is also a vote to advance the diversity affairs agenda. Instead of reading that draft, I'm going to read from the minutes of the May 13th Executive Committee meeting. Motion by Robinson, second by Langenhen, to have the county board chair appoint a work group made of county board supervisors to create a resolution within 60 days. Motion failed. Roll call was taken. Gibbs, yes. McEwen, no. Matt Boots, no. Randy Pfeiffer, no. Langenhang, no. Leahy, no. John Robinson, yes. Starks, no. So who decided to ignore the will of the executive committee and go ahead and create the work group? Were open meeting laws followed? Were public notice rules given? Are we so desperate to move the diversity affairs agenda forward that we're willing to bend the rules? Please put the A version on the agenda for Tuesday and vote it down so we can move past this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Bruce Bohr. Call in. Mr. Bohr, if you're *6, if you're on mute, to unmute, please.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Bruce Bohr, 440 North Ridge Road, Marathon. Chairman Gibbs and members of the Marathon County Board. More than a year ago, you recognized an opportunity to help our county attract workers by developing a resolution announcing that Marathon County welcomes people of goodwill to join us in our efforts to build a thriving community in central Wisconsin. You undoubtedly expected that it would be a simple task that would require a small number of man hours and only a short time to complete. The team you selected took the opportunity to turn this mundane task into a monumental undertaking requiring an inordinate amount of time and effort, as perhaps could only happen in a government setting. They used this opportunity to press for racist and socialist policies that created controversy within the community and attracted negative national media attention to our small community. Their proposed resolution has been revised multiple times. A portion of the egregious language was grudgingly removed with each revision, but the revision you have before you now still contains divisive language that opens the door to giving special privileges to some groups of people at the expense of other groups of people. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kaylee McCauley. Kaylee didn't check. She had signed up, but she hadn't checked in. Is she? She's coming? All right, thank you. Next will be Tom, followed Kaylee will be Tom Killian.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay, awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaylee McCauley, and my address is 5177 North 28th Ave. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my thoughts tonight. I've seen people opposing the Community for All resolution for various reasons. However, the one that perplexes me the most is the belief that the resolution is simply not necessary because discrimination doesn't exist here in Wausau or in this county at all. And I would like to address the board and say that discrimination and prejudice exists here. There is a persistent, unwelcoming, and at times even threatening attitude towards people perceived as other in our community. I have both personally witnessed it and experienced it, and I believe that intolerance is an heirloom that we've passed along in our communities in this county, and I don't want to watch tradition and willful ignorance perpetuate it. Thanks to some dedicated people, we have the opportunity to create a new legacy for this area by the way of the Community for All resolution, a legacy that honors acceptance and abandons discrimination in all its forms. And we need to say in a clear way to marginalized people, you belong here, we want you here, you're valued here, and the Community for All resolution is a way to do that for everybody, but especially for people who feel overlooked and underrepresented in our county. We can't hope for a community that is caring and tolerant and welcoming. We can't leave it up to chance. We have to cultivate it, we have to build it, and we have to do so with intentionality.
15 seconds.
So I'm asking you guys to please vote yes for the Community for All resolution and help us build a community that is tolerant for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tom Killian, and follow that by Ron Dotseth.
Good evening, Tom Killian, 133 East Thomas Street, Wausau, Wisconsin, and Alderperson, District 3, Wausau. I was born and raised here, likely conceived here, and I hope to expire here someday. I love central Wisconsin. It's in my blood, and I think many of us do. Whether or not we have differing perspectives or opinions on things, that makes me a Wausonian and a Wisconsinite. What that does not make me is a Marxist or a communist, and call me what you like, but don't call me late to dinner. What I'd like to say, though, is that I think no matter how we feel on each side of this issue, we approach these local issues with a mutual and shared sincerity for our community. And what we often find with policy and policy decisions is it does not come from any type of party rhetoric, whatever the party, nor does it come from any false binary of the left and the right. What it often comes from is our hearts and minds. So I'll keep it quite simple tonight and just ask that you follow your hearts and mind, and remember that inclusivity and diversity is not only positive, but something to be celebrated. So let's do that, and I humbly request you support the Community for All resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ron Dotseth, and then James Yeatis.
Ron Dotseth, 227814, Sharptail Road, Wausau. I spent a long time this morning doing this. The only thing I can think of is, how would you like to be in Afghanistan and a woman and gay, and we are hacking each other over words. And as far as I can see, this diversity stuff, I've lived here for 30 years, never seen any of what these people are talking about. I go to a multi-ethnic, non-denominational church. It has Hmongs in it, it has blacks, it has Hispanics, and it's got whites. And we all help each other. The rest of this stuff is a waste of time and a waste of money. As far as I'm concerned, you can bury this thing, kill it, whatever it takes. This goes on way, way too long. And I'm hoping some of you people can come to a little bit of common sense. Thank you.
Next, we have James Yeatis, and that will be followed by Cindy Newman. James Yeatis is calling.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me, Mr. Gibb?
Yes, go ahead.
Very good. Thank you. My name is James Yeatis. I reside at 232534 Pleasant View Road, Town of Easton, Ringgold, Wisconsin. Dear Mr. Gibbs and County Board members, next Tuesday, each of you will finally be asked to vote on another version of yet another proposed Community for All resolution. Regardless of the final version that comes before you, I ask that it be voted down. It started out as poison to this community and remains so to this day, regardless of how mundane and harmless it may end up seeming to be. Allow me to give you an example of the uselessness of these types of resolutions and how, when one gets passed by a group that demands special consideration to recognize that particular segment of our population, it does no good and also does not satisfy their wants, so they continue to push their agenda. In June of 2019, a resolution was passed by 2 votes to recognize June as Gay Pride Month after a push by the LGBTQ community and Diversity Affairs Committee because they felt that they were somehow being mistreated and discriminated against, were not being accepted, and did not have rights in our community. They insisted that having this resolution would legitimize the standing in their community and give those things that they so desired by special recognition. However, judging by the rhetoric that is coming from those that support this CFA resolution, it had no impact on making their lives better, if they were even bad to begin with. So I ask you, did that resolution make a difference other than spurring division and controversy as this proposed resolution is doing now? If it did really make a difference, then why are they pushing this current resolution? And if it didn't make a difference, then why are they pushing this current resolution and think that this one will make any more of a difference than the one passed back in 2019?
15
Everyone
seconds.
needs and deserves to be treated with acceptance and compassion, no matter what. No one part of our society should act that they need deserves special treatment. Division is not what we need right now in this country or in this community. And pushing these resolutions is leading to just that. Community division, and not a community for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Cindy Newman. Call in.
Hello, my name is Cindy Newman, and I live at 7303 Ryan Amy Drive in Weston. The Community for All resolution has not brought our community together in any way, shape, or form, but it has divided us further. When we give preference to special interest groups, we experience more racism, prejudice, and division. Are we in kindergarten that we have to call out that we are this loving community for all? Shouldn't that go without say? Can you control the acts of an individual with an evil heart or agenda? Should we give them a pass and call it systemic racism or prejudice when they act in a despicable manner towards another human being or group? Or should they be held accountable for their individual behavior? Should we categorize everyone in the same group simply because of their color or sexual orientation? That only starts riots and wars, such as the George Floyd incident. You cannot force people to adopt your values who do not necessarily think the same as you. You cannot force people to see things the way you see them. We all have our own values and belief system that we adhere to, and we cannot and will not embrace something that goes against our personal beliefs and our moral grain. That does not mean that we cannot live together in a peaceable manner. The tactic that people use for the community for all is the shame game. They simply shame others who are not in agreement with them. They will use media and public platforms such as Facebook, the Wausau Daily Herald, and Wausau Pilot and Review, not to mention the New York Times, to continue their shaming process. I have seen how they put up council members' photos on Facebook, encouraging others to share and continue the shaming process. We have been called homophobes, white privilege, having white
15
fragility,
seconds.
unwelcoming, unloving, haters, and so much more. Are we in high school? This shaming process does not work. It has never worked. Please stop using it. It's not successful. I'm asking the board members to please vote no to the Community for All resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Time. Next, we have Fred Teely, and follow that by Bree Zerny Gordwin.
My name is Fred Teely. I'm at 1411 Marquardt Road, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. First of all, thank you so much for having me speak here. I have a lot of important things to say, but I won't get to them in 2 minutes. I'm going to dispense pretty much what I had to say after listening to all of the guests tonight. One thing that's really important is we need to get along. We are a community here. I have friends who are on the board, who are on both sides of the issue. I have friends in the galleries, neighbors, and so forth. On both sides, we get along, we talk, and that's what we need to do. We are a community of human beings who are at this place, at this time, and we need to work for our future. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I will. I heard too many people say that there is no racism here. And I have two people who work for me who moved up from Milwaukee because of the safety of their kids and education. And they have been called the N-word many times, and they weren't called that in Milwaukee. And Brenda told me that they had a job in Rib Mountain, and a woman came screaming out of her house, calling them the N-word to get out of there, and then she called the cops. And what Brenda is mostly afraid of is her 14-year-old son and the discrimination that he's had to deal with. The other thing I really wanted to bring up is perception is reality. And the perception of our community right now is not good.
15 seconds.
There are people who will leave. And I've thought it myself, going back to my hometown of Eau Claire, because it's a welcoming community. And this one needs work on that, so please pass it.
Next, we have Bree Zerny Gordwin. Amy Leanoff is next.
Hi, my name is Bree Cerny Grondin, 707 Turner Street, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. So this past week I went on a mission. I reached out to many people in different minority groups for real life experiences in living and growing up in Wausau area. I wanted to give you more real life examples, but the more that I heard, the more I realized the importance of talking about our differences and our history and how we identify in our beliefs. And you see, this isn't any one group. This is literally everyone. Everyone that was ever told they were too fat, too skinny, that they weren't native enough, that they weren't white enough, weren't black enough, not gay enough, or maybe they were too gay, not trans enough, not non-binary enough. Our minority community is stereotyped within as well. Also, if you don't know those labels, it's your responsibility to learn those. The misunderstanding and little acceptance is coming from all directions, and it's time to recognize that we need to strive to be better and to do better. We need to face our own biases and socially taught stereotypes and figure out where those came from and how much truth they actually truly hold. This is the time to sit down with your neighbors and your friends and your family members and have those conversations and learn from them. If we are one race, the human race, everyone in that race should be treated with respect and dignity. And we're telling you that we're not treated that way. It's time to hold ourselves accountable for the direction of our community, and this is a stepping stone, and we deserve a community for all. If the board members don't hear anything from my statement, that's okay, but I feel privileged to let everyone know that is different or has been treated differently, that you're not alone, that you are loved and you are accepted and you are valid. Please,
15 seconds.
please vote in favor of the Community for All resolution. We need to do better for the people that live here and the people that we love. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Amy Leanoff, and then follow that by Jan Smart. Amy, call in. Amy, are you there? *6 to unmute.
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes, we can. Amy, go ahead.
Okay. Amy Leonoff, 906 McIndoe. So just like in previous meetings, I'm hearing a lot of people who claim that those of us who are in favor of a community for all are communists or socialists or Marxists. They seem not to understand that these things aren't actually all the same, but they do understand that if they use those words, it scares people. I can say clearly and without a doubt that nobody I know who supports a community for all wants that. We are not the boogeyman, and there's no way that those who oppose this measure actually believe that thousands of people in this community who support CFA are harboring some Marxist agenda. And furthermore, I've heard several times about the diversity affairs agenda. What even is that? This is what I know about most people in my community. If any one of you saw someone laying on the ground and they told you someone had hurt them, you would not question that they were hurt or how badly they were hurt. You'd give them a hand and you'd get them help. Yet we have people in our community who have told us repeatedly that they have been hurt by racism and discrimination. They tell you they're treated differently, called names, assaulted, and made to feel unwelcome, and you say that doesn't matter, or worse yet, you say you don't believe them. Community for All did not create racism and discrimination in our community. It merely shone a light on it. This matters. We need to acknowledge that discrimination is happening and that it matters. And we need to commit to keeping that awareness in mind as we move forward as a community. We need to recognize the value and the benefits of embracing and welcoming diversity in our community, and we need to collectively condemn intimidation and violence towards members of marginalized communities in our county. That's what this resolution does. No more and no less. I'm asking you, County Board Supervisors, to pass this resolution. It's good for the community and it's long overdue.
Next, we have Jan Smart, and then that will be followed by Karina Norbaum.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is, my name is Jan Madash Smart. I live at 730 East Bridge Street. I am Native American. I'm Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, and I moved here 5 years ago, well, almost 5.5 years ago, and I'm not from here, but I moved from the reservation up north. Prior to that, I went to school went to school in Minnesota. I know the white academia world. I'm a master's in social work. I've worked in the human services field for a long time. I've taught at Marathon on Stevens Point. So I'm acknowledged about in my observations about when racism and diversity is present. I practice my own traditional religion for a very good reason, and I respect everybody in this room, whether you agree with me or not, and I live here peacefully in this community. But at one time, I sat in the civil rights in Milwaukee, and I also stood with the American Indian movement in the civil rights era in Milwaukee also. I decided to calm down and get an education and help my people through working in the field of human services and so forth, and practice my own traditional ways,
15 seconds.
do. I ask you to support the Community for All, and I just want to say, if you believe that racism and diversity is not present here, you're not awoke. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Next, we have Karina Norbaum. And the next we'll be going to the individuals that have signed up that were in the overflow room. Richard Pixley, Tim Sandulski, Christopher Wood are the next three, please. Karine, please.
Thank you, Chairman Gibbs. My name is Karina Norbaum, 1802 Fawn Avenue, Rothschild. I'm here to speak in favor of the Community for All resolution. Marathon County's shared vision is to be the healthiest, safest, and most prosperous county in Wisconsin. I am a family physician. The UW Population Health Institute and many other institutions affirm that medical care, though important when you need it, is truly only a small part of what determines the health of people and their communities. Their socioeconomic status, if they have living wages, education, but also environment, the environment in which a person lives. Do they feel safe? Do they have a sense of belonging? These are very important. Treating all people with dignity, recognizing the humanity and unique value of each and every person, and celebrating the diversity that strengthens us is not a zero-sum game. It raises us all up. Welcoming and valuing people from diverse backgrounds and perspectives will help us be a healthier, safer, and more prosperous county. Please vote in favor of the CFA resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Richard Pixley, and follow that by Tim Sandulski.
How are you doing? My name is Richard Pixley. Address is 226129 Gavitt Street, Schofield, Wisconsin. It's Ringgold, actually. Today I kind of went around, and I got a nice dark tan because I went around looking for all the signs that says that they're not welcome in Wausau. And man, I got a really good tan because there are none. This town is welcoming. I came from Southern California. I got to see every race you could imagine. And coming here, I don't understand the idea that you need to make some resolution to be welcoming or to be a community for all. It makes no sense to me. This resolution really, it's kind of weird. My great-grandfather, or I'm a descendant of Zachary Taylor, who fought to stop slavery, racism, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense to me to have a resolution when all you really got to do is pay attention to people around you, ask for help. If you're being picked on, ask someone to help you. I mean, resolutions like this go nowhere. I think there's other ways to do this better than doing a resolution that's creating so much controversy. Please vote no.
Thank you. Next, Tim Sandulski. And the next will be Christopher Wood. Alex Heaton is after that. Tim, by all means.
Thank you, Chairman Gibbs. I'm Tim Sandulski. I reside at 146-367 Moon Road. And I just wanted to say the Community for All, the title is very deceptive. I mean, When you look deep into this, it's actually just the opposite. It actually divides people, and it's rooted in Marxism and critical race theory. In God's eyes, there's only one race, the human race. And resolutions like this also lead to taking away our constitutional rights. And I work in a company about 150 people, and we got about 6-7 different ethnicities, and we get along very well. No division, no. I believe the community here is already a community all, so we don't need to create a community for some. Let's vote no to stop the creeping of Marxism into our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Christopher Wood, followed by Alex Heaton.
Hello, Chairman Gibbs. I hope your day is well today. So, I hear we're trying to curb freedom of speech, and that's kind of bananas. I never thought Americans would even talk about that. It's a melting pot. It's always been a community for all. I grew up with hearing that it's a melting pot. Is that not true? Is this Word document hold more value than the Constitution? Are people willing to die for the Word document? Because the Constitution already does what people are expecting, which is equal opportunity for everyone. People have died in a dirt hole for that Constitution. People have died in wet jungles with, imagine all sorts of creepy crawlies all over you. Imagine the people that died for the Constitution, which entails everyone's security for opportunity. Are people willing to die for this Word document? I love all Americans, you know, and the fact that we would think that there is racism going on is absolutely bewildering, because I grew up to be educated on what racism is, and it is nothing to what I see now, being that there's opportunity for everyone. No one's shackling anyone down and holding anyone back from accomplishing anyone's dreams. You can do anything you want and put anything you want to do in life. Everything is on the internet. And yeah, every once in a while someone's going to call us a fag, but we got to get over it. We got to stand strong. We can't let someone hurt our feelings and say that that's going to stop us from accomplishing our dreams. The color of our skin is going to stop us from accomplishing our dreams. Someone else's color of their skin is going to determine my future.
15 seconds.
Anyone's future? Do not vote for this. People are willing to die for the Constitution. If they're willing to die for that, they're willing to take your job if you say yes to this. Keep fighting for America. Americans, God bless.
Please provide your address. Your address.
500 East Thomas Street, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Next we have Alex Heaton, followed by Megan Morrill.
Good evening. My name is Alex Heaton. I live at 142407 Rolling Meadows Lane, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401-ish. Zip code might be a little off. So I'm a new resident to Wausau. I moved here in April for a job with my friend. And I don't believe that Marathon County is necessarily racist, but I can say, moving from Indiana, having spent time in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, it's a pretty bigoted county, let's be honest. I mean, just some of the things that have been said here tonight. When we first got here, we said, crap, this isn't the Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. This is the Alabama, Wisconsin. Now, doesn't mean I don't like it, but honestly, the communism, the Marxism, those words have meanings. They're not being used properly. Equity has a meaning. It's not being used properly. As leaders, I hope that you guys kind of look past some of this rhetoric and you guys do what is ultimately right. Please vote to pass the Community for All initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Megan Morrill. Jillian Bettino is next.
Hi. Oh, my name is Megan Merle. I live at 1025 Everest Boulevard, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. And I'm 17. I'm just going to let everyone know that. I go to school at Wausau East. I've lived here my entire life. I grew up here. It's my home. But as people are turning 18, kids my age, the one thing that we all have in common is they cannot wait to get the hell out of here. And this, what is going on here, this is why. This is why. The way that adults are acting. This isn't something that should be argued about. I spoke last time about this. People my age, young adults, cannot wait to get out of Wausau just because of the racism that's going on. They can't wait. So please vote in favor for this. I don't understand why you wouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Jillian Bettino. And that will be followed by Betty Ahrens.
Hi, I'm Jillian Bettino. I live at 142437 Rolling Meadows Lane, Wausau, 54401. Thank you very much for being here for your community and representing your constituents. You know, I have been in Wisconsin and in Wausau for about 15 years now, and I consider this my home. I love this city. I love Marathon County. And I find it very distressing to hear the comments tonight that there's no racism. I mean, you know, I've mentioned before, I have a diverse family, and I hear these stories from my children frequently regarding racist commentary and unfortunate circumstances, mainly at school. So, you know, I think that the resolution is actually really beautifully written and makes an effort to respect the integrity and dignity of every human being, no matter the skin color, language, religion, all of it. And I think that you have a wonderful opportunity here to be on the right side of history and to fight for the dignity and the opportunity for every single person in Marathon County. And I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome of this. I believe in you and hope that you trust your minds and your hearts and make the right decision and vote yes for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Betty Ahrens. Call in, Betty. Oh, excuse me, she's in person. Betty, is Betty in the overflow? Well, while we see if we can find Betty, we have some people that have called or that are registered that were called in that were not able. Joel Lewis. Joel?
Hello.
Yes, Joel, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you
great.
now.
All right.
Address,
All
please.
right. All right, Joel Lewis, 807 Turner Street, 54403. And thank you so much, Chairperson Gibbs and the Marathon County Board of Supervisors for taking the time to listen to all of this public comment. Boy, this is a lot. So I just want to say, after listening to the Executive Committee meeting last week, you know, even though I would like to see the original resolution passed. I was happy to see Supervisor Boots offer an amendment, and I was happy to see that they wanted to that the Executive Committee wanted to give the full board a chance to hear from the people and to vote on this. And so I want to commend you for that, and I really hope that all of you will vote yes on this resolution. I think the only reason that it has caused division is because there's been an organized effort to create that division. There's been an effort to say that this is a partisan thing, the Community for All resolution, which I got to tell you, a lot of the people involved in this, I've never seen them at a partisan meeting. And so somebody has put that idea in a lot of folks' heads. And so unfortunately, I just wish you would not listen to that noise and look at what the words in this resolution say, and look at the fact that you have people in this room who are brave enough to share their stories and say that they have experienced, you know, the kind of discrimination that this resolution wants to erase, you know, work to erase. And this is just a statement saying this is what we hope to do. We hope to work on making things better. So This isn't a partisan plot. It's not a Marxist plot. It's literally a resolution that wants to recognize the diversity in our community and celebrate it. And I'm asking all of you to open your hearts and vote yes on this resolution next week, Tuesday. Thank you so much for your time and your service to the county.
Thank you. Next, we have Felicity Niles. Felicity? We have call in Rachel Busella. Rachel, *6 if you're still on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Rachel.
227931 Crane Drive, West Wisconsin 54401. I have listened at the previous meeting and I've listened to all the comments tonight. The idea of a community for all people is a great goal. However, the specifics on how to get there are unclear. For example, how can a resolution addressing equity and systemic inequalities be written without a negative effect on a certain population of people? I feel more specific details need to be presented, addressing how do we know systemic inequality exists in our county at every level, and how is that determined? I haven't heard that being discussed, and I don't see that written in the proposed resolution. Also, what action is going to happen to take care of that? Once it's specifically defined, what is the action? I don't see anything written about what action is going to take place. As a community, we need concrete action items before the county board can vote on this. So please vote no at this time until those things are clearly stated and clearly defined. Thank you.
Thank you. We have also Ashley Vargas Jensen. Ashley? *6 if you're on. Okay. And then last but not least, we'll go back to Betty Ahrens. Ahrens? All right, that will end the public comment. I want to thank all of the individuals for their words and adherence to the rules. I really do appreciate it. We will move on to item number 8. Was there one more person that wanted to speak that had signed up?
This was Betty Ahrens. I've been trying to get through.
Betty, go ahead. You are recognized for 2 minutes. Please provide your address.
Thank you so much. I live at 16540 County Road Z, Wausau, Wisconsin, actually out in the town of Easton here. And I've appreciated a lot of the comments that have been coming through. My question is, how will this resolution bring about the change that we're looking for? I have a lot of friends and family members that are of many different ethnicities and sexual orientations, and I love them all. But I don't see how the resolution is going to bring about the change we want. And my concern actually gets into the equity issue. Equity often meaning equal outcomes having to do with numbers. And actually, my husband was a victim of systemic racism in a sense, having to do with this equity issue. When we look at affirmative action, which was actually instituted in 1961, 60 years ago, his parents had grown up in abject poverty, and then his parents, using blue-collar jobs, raised a family of 6. And then my husband, Dave, when he wanted to learn how to work with the DNR, he had to pay for his education, go through the University of Minnesota, et cetera, and finally was able to get a job to start with. He started working his way up. He was a crew leader, et cetera. Then there were layoffs. After the layoffs, there were jobs around Minnesota that he went to. maybe 200 people at the same time. They all took a test. He finished in the top 3 because he worked hard to get to that point, but they would never offer an interview. And eventually, after about 3 times, he said, "Hey, what's going on?" And they said, "Sorry, we need to fill our affirmative action role."
15 seconds.
And so, okay, so he had to totally give up that occupation, and it wasn't just in Minnesota, and start from scratch again. So unfortunately, because of equity, there was systemic racism against him, and I don't know how we could fix that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will proceed to education presentation and reports. Standing committee chairpersons or designees. Vice Chair McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to let the rest of the committee or the board know that the Rules Review Committee will have its first meeting on September 16th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. before the educational board meeting, be here at the courthouse. And I'd ask the members that are on there to also bring their calendars so we can try to schedule a second meeting at that first meeting. So thank you.
Any other? Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to give a couple of updates. First one is relative to broadband. Earlier this week, the county submitted an application to the National Communications and Information Administration relative to a partnership with Charter Communication to try to expand broadband services in eastern and central parts of the county. We've talked about that in the past, but that has been submitted. We are hopeful that will receive funding and help deal with some of the underserved areas. I'd also like to point out that the Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee has completed the 3 public hearings. In each public hearing, we had more people attend to try to get input from the citizens relative to how to spend the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. And we will be, over the next few weeks, developing criteria that we will be bringing to the county board on how those dollars should be allocated, along with some concepts. We're still trying to understand the implications of the lost revenue provisions in the law, but we had a lot of very valuable feedback. We've encouraged citizens, if they couldn't attend, to submit information online or to contact you as county board supervisors. So we look for additional information. And then I'd also like to just highlight that we will be having a presentation during the month of September and looking for action on the new enterprise resource planning system, which replaces both our HR and our finance system. Kayenta is woefully out of date and inadequate, and will be a sizable investment for both the city of Wausau and us. But look for that, and we'll be sharing information on that. And also, finally, going back to broadband, in September, we will have a proposal before us from Bug Tussle relative to the conduit bonding to provide services in the county. Just giving you a heads up that there will be presentations at many of the committees in the next month relative to the scope of that proposal, and we look forward to try to address any questions that you would have. And one final shout out, I know that Supervisor Fifrick has resigned from the board, and I may steal some of the thunder, but I just would like to, on behalf of the work that we've done in the broadband task force, working with him as the chair of the infrastructure, thank him for his long and dedicated service to the county board.
Thank you. Any other committee chairs or designees? Okay, moving on to review and discussion of Tuesday meeting agenda items under 9A, appointments. Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee.
Appointing Supervisor Jennifer Arstead to serve on the Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee to complete a term to expire at the Organizational County Board meeting in April 2022.
Questions? Discussion? Okay, item 9A2, Local Emergency Planning Committee.
Appointing the following to the Local Emergency Planning Committee for an indefinite term: Robert Bartek, Wausau Fire Department, replacing Tracy Kajawa. Ryan Birdall, Law Enforcement, replacing Frank Hanasek. Sarah Doadot, Media, replacing Melissa Langben. Michael Purner, Corporation Counsel, replacing Scott Corbett. Aaron Ruff, also representing the Media, replacing Melissa Langben. Sarah Rothmeyer, Medical, North Central Healthcare. Jeremy Kopp, Wausau Fire Department. John Peralta, Marathon County Solid Waste. And Frank Hanasek as a citizen member.
Questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 9A3, Aging and Disability Resource Center Board of Central Wisconsin Advisory Committee.
Appointing Krista Michaud, 620 Whitney Way, Mosinee, to the Aging and Disability Resource Center Board of Central Wisconsin Advisory Committee to complete a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2023, replacing Tony Omernick.
Questions? Okay, moving on. The health officer.
Appointing Laura Scudier to the position of Health Officer for Marathon County, effective September 1st, 2021.
Okay, we have the administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you briefly this evening. As you heard from the appointment, I'm asking the board to address and confirm Laura Scudari as the replacement for Joan Toyer upon her retirement. Joan's leaving us after many years of service. She's done an exceptional job. Her last day with Marathon County is September 1st, and I wanted to take just the opportunity to speak with you a little bit about the process and the qualifications for the individual that I'm recommending the board to consider for filling that vacancy that's upcoming. As I referenced in a previous email to you approximately a month ago, the position of health officer is one of those few positions within Marathon County government that by statute fundamentally requires action by this board. As the administrator, I'm another one of those individuals that you have the opportunity to consider and appoint to serve at your pleasure. The health officer by Wisconsin statute is similar. So the statutes, by sheer definition, they demonstrate that this is really an important position in the county. So I want to tell you a little bit about the process and qualifications so you're comfortable considering the appointment. In terms of process, we did a nationwide recruitment for this department head position. We posted that position on all of our normal postings, again, nationwide, including specific trade publications for the Wisconsin Public Health Association, the Wisconsin Counties Association, as well as the National Association of Counties website. We kept that posting open for a month, from May 6th through June 7th. We received multiple applications, including several from out of state. We screened those 11 applicants. That screening process, we engaged the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, DHS. And the reason we did that is, again, pursuant to Wisconsin statute in Chapter 251, there are very specific requirements in terms of qualifications that a health officer must have for a health department to maintain its Level 3 health department status. And Marathon County is a Level 3 health department. So we wanted to ensure through our screening process that all of the candidates that we moved forward to interview met those qualifications, and we engaged the state Department of Health Services to ultimately do that. We identified through that process our HR staff, along with the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, 3 candidates to move forward to interview. Again, for department head level positions, and this certainly is a department head level position, we typically use a 2-step interview process. We did that here. The first round of interviews was comprised of, or conducted by, I should say, Supervisor Robinson, who also chairs the Board of Health. Koo Her is a Board of Health member. She works at United Healthcare. She has a master's degree in nursing and is pursuing postmaster's work as well as staff from our Employee Resources Department to assist in that overall process. At the conclusion of that first round, the panel moved forward Laura Scuderi for consideration at that second level. Again, we engaged the Department of Health Services at that point to assure that our screening process was first accurate in that we screened in every applicant that met the qualifications for that position. We were assured that we had. We also engaged the Department of Health Services at that point just for additional feedback on whether or not our process that we were utilizing in terms of our application and candidate pool was consistent with the processes and applicant pools that they'd seen recently. We were assured that we had done that and our pools were consistent. So that second round of interviews was conducted by myself, our Employee Resources Director, the Executive Director of the United Way, as well as Tara Drager, the System Director for Community Health Improvement at Aspirus Health System. So at the conclusion of that process, we did determine, that second interview panel determined that Laura Scuderi was a well-qualified candidate to serve in that position. We then moved forward to the final step, which was reference checks. And all of the reference checks we did with respect to Laura were consistent and again confirmed our determination that she was qualified, well qualified to serve in the position. In fact, two of the individuals that served as her reference check, both Deputy Chief Chad Billab as well as Chief Deputy Matt Barnes from the Wausau Police Department are here. I believe Chad is appearing virtually and Matt is here in person. And at the end of my comments, I think they would welcome the opportunity to speak with you. But finally, in terms of qualifications for Ms. Scuderi, I'll be very brief. Her resume is in the packet that was provided. She's lived in our community for 15 years. She's really devoted her life, her professional career certainly, to the practice of public health and safety in our community. She has a master's degree in public health from Ohio State University's School of Medicine and Public Health with a focus on health behavior and health promotion. In terms of professional roles she's held in our community, she's worked for Bridge Community Health Clinic there for 8 years, able to focus on health, dental, and counseling service to the underserved in our communities. And in that role, she was really responsible for the dramatic expansion of those services within our community, including the securing funding to triple the capacity for dental services, which was a true gap in our community. In 2016, she took a position with North Central Healthcare, where she was the Human Services Executive and worked collaboratively with Marathon County on a couple of key initiatives that I'm sure you're all familiar with, including our Crisis Assessment Response Team, commonly referred to as our CART. She worked to expand the medically assisted treatment program that we have and led the exploration and development of the Youth Crisis Hospital that has now been constructed on the North Central Healthcare campus. In 2020, she joined our organization. She currently works for Marathon County. She came to work for us and has overseen over the last 18 months our COVID testing coordinator, and she's been our COVID vaccine coordinator during the pandemic as well, really working with community partners to do an exceptional job. As I indicated before, Laura's passion is really public health and service for her community, and as we continue to work with the board's leadership to achieve the goals within our strategic plan, ensuring that every childhood has access to health, stability, and growth opportunities, ensuring that we address the methamphetamine and heroin epidemics. And to do that effectively, we need really top quality people, and I think Laura is certainly that. So as I indicated before, that role of health officer, by virtue of the work that the health department does, is truly important. So it's my pleasure to bring a qualified candidate, and I believe I've done that. Laura Scuderi for the position of health officer for Marathon County. So with that, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything else unless anyone has any questions. However, I do know Mr. Barnes has been here for a considerable period of time, and I believe Mr. Billab is likewise virtually appearing.
So I would invite Assistant Police Chief Matt Barnes to the podium, and if he would provide a few comments.
Lance didn't tell me the whole agenda before I got here at 7. But it is my pleasure to be here this evening. I'm clearly here to support Laura Scuderi for this position. I met Laura when she was the Executive Director of Bridge Community Clinic, at which point in time my counterpart Chad Billab said, "Hey, I'd like you to attend a meeting with me. You might have something to say." And at that point in time, our relationship and the services being provided to people in crisis in our community was at an all-time low. Our relationship from a law enforcement standpoint was at an all-time low with our relationship with North Central Healthcare and getting those services to people. And I met Laura Scudari, who had nothing to do with that process as far as I knew, but she was selected as a facilitator to run a process improvement group. And I always tease Chad, I'm like, you threw me under the bus, because every Thursday morning for a year and a half, I was booked from that point forward. And what I learned during that time is that we had a great leader in Laura. And I'm not going to stand up here and give you a play-by-play on how that went, other than we are in a much better place today as far as our relationship with North Central and the services we provide people. However, we're in a really rough place when it comes to COVID. So God bless anyone that wants to be a health director coming in the middle of a global pandemic. And I thought, I'm also an elected member of the Mosinee School Board. So I serve kind of two masters in that job. And I thought, what do I want in our next health officer? I want someone with impeccable integrity. I want someone that's collaborative. I want someone that can compromise for the good of the different communities that they serve. I want someone that can hold themselves and others accountable. I want someone who's really bright and can problem solve. And I will stand here and tell you that Laura Scudari is all of those things. And I can give you examples if you need so. I can give you examples of when she has demonstrated those things. So I would strongly encourage you to vote next week to appoint her as the next health officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Chief, Police Chief Barnes. We have Chief Deputy Chad Billop. Chad?
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Chad. You have the floor.
Thank you. I apologize for not being there tonight in person. I had a family commitment this evening that prevents me from being there. I really don't have much more to add than Deputy Chief Barnes has already provided. I could do the same thing. I know you've had a long night tonight, but my relationship with Laura started back when she was with Bridge Community Clinic, and she, like Matt has told you, was the person that really kept us on track. I know that this board is very familiar with the challenges that we faced with North Central Healthcare back in 2015. And I remember standing in front of this body and explaining to you how frustrated we were with the path that we were headed down. And Laura, as a member of Bridge Community Clinic at that time, was the one who stepped forward and offered to be the conduit, that buffer, if you will, between law enforcement and North Central Healthcare. And to our benefit, Laura took a leadership role at North Central Healthcare and continued that momentum forward. I can still recall the day that Laura called me and told me that she wanted to make a move to the health department. And I asked her why. I mean, there was so much good that was going on. There were so many great things we were moving forward. She, Matt, and I had developed this CART program that is probably one of the most successful law enforcement partnership programs in the region. I would say well beyond the borders of Marathon County, because we're still getting requests for our model today. And Laura's response to me when I asked her why she was leaving was that her passion is public health. It's what she went to school for. It's what she lives for. And because of that, I begged her, I've got to be honest with you, I asked her to stay in her role, but I also can appreciate why she wanted to make the move that she made. If not for Laura, like Matt has said, many of the systems and processes that we have in place today that make us more efficient would not be here. She truly is a partner, and she's a facilitator, and she's at least someone who we can bring to a table, pose a problem, and have open ears and an open mind in order to help us move things forward and solve the issues that our community faces. And I don't want to belabor the point tonight, but I really hope that when you all have the opportunity to vote next week, that you vote in favor of Laura, because I'm confident that she will do a phenomenal job, and that she will be a partner to not only law enforcement, but every other county department that relies on them in so much of the work that we do together. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight.
Well, thank you. Does any board member have any questions for any of the individuals, the assistant police chief, the chief deputy, and or the administrator, and or Laura? Laura is here with us this evening. Any questions? Well, thank you all. Thank you, Laura, for staying here and being with us. And thank you for your commitment to the health and welfare of the residents of Marathon County. We'll move on to ordinances under 9B1, Town of Wayne, rezone Glenn Brubaker on behalf of Leonard and Lucinda Hurst. Ordinance 27-21. Any discussion? Okay, item 9B2, Town of Knowlton, rezone Jane Kunze and James Kramer. Ordinance 28-21. Any questions? Okay, item 9B3, Town of Holton, rezone Bloom Farms. Ordinance 29-21. Any discussion? Item 9B4, Town of Hall, rezone Jordan Brost on behalf of Bradley Copes. Ordinance 30-21. Any discussion? Item 9B5, Town of Wayne, rezone Tim Vreeland on behalf of Lorton and Deborah Hoppenworth and Jordan Wheeland. Ordinance 31-21. Any discussion? Okay, item 9B6, amending the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 22, Shoreland and Wetlands and Floodplain Code. Ordinance 32-21. Any discussion? Okay, moving on to resolutions. Item 9C1 from the Central Wisconsin Joint Airport Board. Item 9C1A, Central Wisconsin Airport Permanent Utility Easement, Resolution 51-21. Any discussion? Supervisor Guild.
So as current chair of the airport board, I just wanted to basically let you know that all this is doing is we have actually had some really great success out there with attracting some new hangar tenants. And we're in the process of building the second of what looks to be potentially 3 different hangars. And all we're asking, this is just a requirement in order to get an easement to get electricity out to the second of those hangars. So it's just kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's on making sure that our new tenants out there can get the facilities that they need. So that's all that we're asking here. But if you do have any questions, I would be happy to answer, or else we do have an airport board meeting tomorrow morning.
Any discussion? Okay, moving on to Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee, item 9C2A, to abolish 1.0 FTE administrative specialist window clerk and create 1.0 FTE criminal justice specialist and court of clerk in the clerk of court's office. Resolution 52-21. Any discussion? Okay, next we have item 9C2B, to create 1.0 FTE CPZ technician, water resource technician in the Conservation Planning and Zoning Department. Resolution 53-21. Any discussion? Okay, item 9C, 2C, to reorganize the sheriff's office to address dispatch priority, resolution 54-21. Any discussion? Okay, next we have item 9C, 2D, to abolish 1.0 FTE administrative assistant and expand currently existing 0.50 FTE social services specialist to 1.0 FTE, resolution 55-21. Any discussion? Okay, moving on to item E, amending the 2021 support for other agencies, North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, and transfer $30,000 from the 2021 contingency fund, resolution 56-21. And we have from the North Central Regional Planning, Carrie Edmondson on. Carrie, if you want to try to give a brief explanation?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you, Chairperson Gibbs and members of the Board of Supervisors. So my name is Carrie Edmondson, and I'm with the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. And we have been talking with the Wausau Metro communities the past few months about the creation of a Metro Wausau housing assessment. And due to the fact that a sizable amount of the population is located in the Wausau Metro area, and a great portion of people work in the Wausau Metro area, we think it aligns well with the Marathon County strategic plan of being the most prosperous, safest, and healthiest county. And so what we're looking at doing is, it's a proposed housing assessment, and it would include a background analysis that would include inventory and data about the metro area, demographics, economic factors, housing factors, including gaps. It would also include a fairly robust public participation and outreach component that would include some public meetings, a survey, stakeholder interviews with realtors, members of the building community. A lot of the metro leaders thought this would be very beneficial, kind of get a feel for conditions on the ground, see kind of what local stakeholders are experiencing. And we think this would also be critical when planning commissions and city councils get opportunities for a variety of housing types to kind of know what it is that people want and what the need actually is. It would also include organizational strategy, evaluations, and research, what options are available, what regulatory barriers exist, what administrative barriers exist, and what some kind of real-time solutions are that have worked well in other areas of the state, and things that could be utilized readily as opportunities present. And so we would look at implementation strategies, and then the final product would be a synthesis of all these components, and hopefully we'd create a really great housing assessment that would also include some real practical solutions for communities. So the timeline for this project we're looking at is about a 12 to 18 month timeline. And at the Planning Commission, we are willing to contribute $10,000 of our CARES Act technical assistance funds. And in addition to that, we're seeking $30,000 from the county, and then the municipalities, the local units would be putting in $15,000 for a total project cost of $55,000. And does anyone have any questions or would like additional information?
Additional questions? Supervisor Guild.
No additional questions. I just wanted to let our fellow supervisors know that this did initially come to the Economic Development Committee. We did review she gave a wonderful presentation, went into more detail on the handout that is included in the packet here for your review as well. And our committee did ultimately decide that we felt that it had an economic value for the community or for the county as a whole. And even though the focus will be on the Wausau metro area, there is so many that people that live, work, and play in that area, even those who are from the rural communities, that we felt that there was a good justification for recommending approval. But our committee did pass it forward to the HR Property and Finance Committee for additional consideration. So we wanted to make sure that financially speaking, it was in the best interest of the county. And so with that, I will actually pass it over to the chair of that committee so that he can speak to what they determined from there.
Supervisor Robinson, go ahead.
Thank you. In addition to the HR Finance and Property Committee, the Metropolitan Planning Organization also reviewed that, and that is made up of 13 municipalities or our local governments in the metro area, and they were unanimous in their support for this. But the HR Finance Committee unanimously recommended it. They could have taken this out of their own contingency fund, but they wanted to bring it to the full board to make sure that we kept you in the loop, and it gave you an opportunity to vote on it on Tuesday. But again, housing is a critical issue facing the community. We need additional housing, and this study should go a long way in helping address some of the shortages and needs.
Just one addition, I do serve on the HR Finance Committee, and the recommendation is to take $30,000 out of the Marathon County Contingency Fund, and that contingency fund does have in its budget $750,000, and this would require a 2/3 majority vote of the board to approve. And again, I think the chairman of the HR Finance Committee reiterated that it was unanimous at the HR Finance Committee. So any other questions? Supervisor? Okay. Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Why was this not in the budgeted amount of money that we've given them? Do we budget any money to this group? It seems to be in the resolution that there's, do we give them money right now, is my first question.
The answer is yes, and that is for membership of the county to provide opportunities for all municipalities to utilize North Central Regional Planning services at a discounted rate.
Thank you. My second question, or my second thought is, it was kind of mentioned, you know, this is within the Wausau area, and for the rural communities, which one I represent, it simply doesn't serve us. I don't see in any regard. So what I would say, and if I can finish, what I would like to say is, while I would certainly recommend giving some money, I would not think that the county would give more money than the city of Wausau to this. We're giving $30,000, Wausau is giving $15,000. To me, that should be reversed. If we want to assist with that, that seems fine. But this certainly is, again, not for the entire county. Thank you.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'd just like to point out that the Wausau metro area is part of Marathon County. Residents in the greater Wausau area pay county and city taxes, both. Let's not make this a city versus county. That's ridiculous. You know, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. All of my residents live within the city, or all of my constituents live within the city limits. Never once have they said, we've got to stop funding those county roads. It doesn't do anything for us. So I don't want to hear, you know, it really bothers me when someone says, well, what does it do for my area? We're all one county. We're all county residents. So I think that is a specious argument at best and a waste of time to go down that road and talk about being divisive. We don't need to go there.
We'll have
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll have decorum in the chamber. Thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor Dickinson. Again,
Mr. Chair,
I remind
Mr. Chair,
supervisors
I'm
to
speaking.
address the chair and not each other, and we will not have, we will have decorum in this chamber.
My statement to you, Mr. Chair, is if I felt that the county wasn't responsible in any way, I would have said zero. So what I'm saying is, I feel that the big benefactor is a certain part of the county. I could also state that, are we looking at housing in Stratford area? Are we looking at housing in the Athens area? Are we looking at housing in Mosinee? That's all that I'm saying. I'm not saying to completely reject it. I'm simply making the statement that it's a certain benefit to a certain area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor Krause?
Thank you, Chair. I'm thinking that there are people from surrounding areas and states that are moving to this area because of climate change and because of the scenery and the recreation and available in this area, all the different activities, sports activities too. And quite a few of them are moving out to the rural areas. Some of the small towns, they've already started or have had apartments for quite some time and housing developments. So I'm thinking this is a good idea. Not everybody's going to be moving into the city of Wausau, but I think they're going to be moving out into the rural areas where they can buy up maybe 3 or 4 acres, beautiful homes. I know my parents in Edgar sold the land for huge, beautiful new housing developments. So I think it would benefit everybody. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, thank you, and we'll move on to item 9C, 2F, approve the 2021 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 57-21. Any discussion? Okay, moving on from the Executive Committee under item 9C, 3A, amending section 2.01, parent 1, parent F of the Marathon County General Code of Ordinances to permit virtual meeting attendance for all county board meetings, Resolution 58-21, and this item is scheduled for action at tonight's meeting. Again, what spurred this discussion at exec was the obvious, the increase in the COVID activity in Marathon County, and in particular the Delta variant. And so the executive committee thought it was worth bringing a opportunity for discussion to change our rules back to allow virtual meetings for the voters' meeting. So that's what you have before you. And it came from exec, and it was unanimous at exec. Supervisor Johnson.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to approve. Second by Supervisor Conway. Supervisor Robinson. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? This does require a 2/3 majority vote. 2/3 majority of the individuals present today is 22. And is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I would guess I ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Arstead. Yes. Boots.
Aye.
Book.
Aye.
Butke.
Aye.
Christensen. Seiler.
Aye.
Conway. Dickinson. Drabeck. Fisher.
Aye.
Gaber.
Aye.
Gibbs.
Aye.
Gonering. Guild. Gums. Harris. Jacobson. Johnson,
Aye.
Krause, Lamont,
Aye.
Leahy,
Aye.
Lowe, Mask,
Aye.
McEwen,
Aye.
Opal,
Aye.
Robinson, Rosenberg, Schley, Seafeldt, Soibert, Van Cray,
Aye.
Vole,
Aye.
Zhang, Jacobson. Thank you.
The motion is carried, and the motion was unanimous. Moving on to item 9C, 3B, a resolution declaring Marathon County a community for all, version B, resolution 59-21. Discussion. Any discussion? Supervisor Krause.
Yes, I really think well of this resolution. I would like to see it passed. And the comments about Nazism and all of that and socialism really bother me. My uncle, who is German, fought in World War II. He received a Purple Heart. He fought against his own ancestors in Germany. And as a master's in education administration during the Reagan era, I studied a little bit about Hitler and what he did, and I can't say that I'm an expert in it or read many books, but I do know that comparing our resolution to Nazism is so horrendous. We're not starving people to death. We're not doing experiments, eugenic experiments on gays and homosexuals, and we're not taking blonde hair, blue-eyed children and putting them in special housing away from their families to provide for a superior race. I find this very insulting. And then Reagan got Russia involved to combat, to lose their communism and turn to capitalism. And he unified East and West Germany. And to say that our democracy, our sense of freedom is being obliterated by this resolution, I feel is so ridiculous. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Supervisor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll say, words matter. At the beginning of this meeting, as every meeting, we go around, we stand up, and we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, which is both an affirmation and aspiration. We reaffirm our allegiance to this country, one nation under God, indivisible, and we aspire to have justice and liberty for all. Now, I don't believe anyone here would say those words have no meaning or are not worth reaffirming. And as far as welcoming messages go, some of us probably wouldn't be here right now without the welcoming message. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That welcoming message was a calling to many of your ancestors that they had both a refuge and a home here in America. It boldly affirmed that our country, standing tall with Lady Liberty, and whose torch lit a light for the path forward, including and especially for those that were poor and marginalized, who came here with nothing, but whom could gain from America's promise and welcoming arms. The message loud and clear then, and it should be for us now, You are welcomed here. We want you here. You can have a home here. We were a nation for all was the goal. The community for all is our bold affirmation, aspiration, acknowledgement, and statement of love. It says to those who have less or look different or face challenges or may have been given less opportunities or denied opportunities just because of who they are. You matter. Thank you. Hello. Okay. So the community for all is our bold affirmation, aspiration, acknowledgement, and statement of love. It says to those who have less or look different or face challenges or who may have been given less opportunities or denied opportunities just because of who they are, that you matter here in this community too. That words matter, that we see you and you are part of this community, and that this community cares about you. What message can be greater than that? Many of you out there I have known in other capacities that I work with on this board and are good people. What we're hearing now, sometimes from residents, the name calling, the vitriol, I don't believe that represents really, what people want to get across. I hope not, in terms of who they are. We as a board have to be leaders. We cannot give into the cynicism, the hatred, the fear, the misinformation and fallacies. We are all part of this community, and we must reaffirm that as leaders and for our community, especially if we're to succeed, thrive, and prosper here. Now, I know I'm optimistic about the ability to change people in terms of opening up their hearts, but maybe this doesn't change everyone's heart today. But you know what? It's a beginning, a conversation, a reflection, and a path forward. We can't begin to know one another if we don't try and understand one another. We can't hear each other if we don't talk to one another. And we can't acknowledge one another if we refuse to see one another. And we can't help each other if we turn our backs on one another. So here we are tonight. We're at an inflection point. The 2020 U.S. Census data shows the county's Black, Hispanic, and Asian populations all increased. You look at the Hispanic population growing by 1,400 plus, the Black population growing by 321 plus, the Asian population increased by 1,300 plus, and we could be seeing new refugees coming to our area. It's important that we set the example moving forward. Change is occurring whether we acknowledge it or not. Our community is changing, and our success depends on all of our residents. And the census puts into place the need for this resolution for tackling the issues raised in it, why education is needed, and why we must come together proclaiming now moving forward, we are and aspire to be a community for all. So I urge all my colleagues tonight and moving forward on Tuesday to support this resolution. Our success depends on it, our future depends on it, and words matter. But more importantly, people matter. So ask yourself, are we a community for all? How your vote will either set us back or move us forward together. So please do the right thing and support this resolution and show everyone the path forward as a community for all. Be a leader. Thank you.
Other discussion? Supervisor Arstead, please go ahead.
Is it working?
Yes.
So I'm the new kid on the block, and I've been watching what's been going on through video prior to even setting myself up to come and do this. And it's hard. This is really hard. I came to the executive board meeting a week ago, and listening to both sides, I just don't think that this resolution is bringing the community together. So when I was voted in by you, I didn't have constituents vote me in, but you voted me in, I raised my hand and vowed to stand up for the U.S. Constitution. And I've been doing some studying, and according to the Constitution, you all know this, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I went into further study to try and figure out the three different versions of the that's gone before the committees and the executive board. And the big thing that Supervisor Boots brought up last week was the words equity and equality. So here's my thought on equity. Equity is about outcome and experiences. Equality is about people viewed equally. That's what we want. We want a community for all where everybody is viewed equally and treated equally under the law, regardless of who you are, regardless of who the people group that you belong to or identify with. You have the same opportunities. So the way I feel about this is that those brilliant men that wrote the Constitution, each one of those men, I'm sure they took a lot of time, like the 17 months that the Diversity Affairs took to put this out. I'm sure they came from being put down by others, or being the person that puts down another. Oppressed, that's the word I'm looking for. I'm getting old, you know. So they were oppressed. They were oppressed by Great Britain. They may have been oppressors because they had slaves, and they may have seen oppression, but yet they knew, they were smart enough, brilliant enough to understand the heart of man. The heart of man is impure, and they knew that they needed to create something in words for our Constitution to state that all men are created equal, and we all have the same equal opportunities. So, as you can tell, I will be voting no. I don't believe that we need this. I believe the Constitution stands alone, but we need, as a board, to look at the people groups that are having issues and somehow work through that, not by a resolution that points to a people group and excludes others. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor Harris?
Thank you. And I guess I would just like to say on that end as well, in terms of the Constitution, when that was written. Even back then, when those words were written, we hold these truths self-evident that all men and women are created equal. All men and women weren't equal at that time. In fact, we weren't, if you were black, you were considered property. So for some, it was reality in terms of moving forward, and for others, it was aspirational. But the statement lives on. It was a good statement moving forward. It was a declaration of where we hoped we would be. And it is the same true about, hopefully, this community for all. It reflects both the reality, but also the aspirational aspects of where we hope to move forward. So I hope, again, that everyone will take a long look at it, will think about it. And in terms of the word equity, I just want to make sure everybody looks at the correct version. We're all looking at version B, which does not contain that word anymore. And that that everybody move forward and hopefully support it moving forward and bring this community together. Thank you.
Other discussion? Supervisor Arstead, go ahead.
The other thing that I looked at with this board was the mission statement and the vision statement and the core values. Our core values are service, diversity, actively welcoming and valuing people with different perspectives and experiences, integrity, honesty, openness, and demonstrating mutual respect and trust in others, shared purpose, working together as a team, quality, providing public services that are reflective of best practices in the field, stewardship of our resources. These are our core values, and stepping outside of that in people groups, I just can't get behind that.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to announcements and/or requests. Supervisor Seefeld. Probably ran out. Again, I'll remind everyone, you have 30 seconds.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just that tomorrow is the last day to sign up for this county park tour. We are going on the 26th. If we get signed up, get enough, we will be able to go. Tomorrow's the deadline. If you don't, you won't get a box lunch. Talk to you later.
I will reiterate, I have gone on those tours, and I tell you, the amount of parks that this county has, you know, if you haven't had an opportunity to visit some of those parks, by all means, take the opportunity to go out and visit those. Additional announcements, Supervisor Zhang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express gratitude to the supervisors that did show up to the Hmong Wassa Festival. It was the largest Hmong event in the Hmong history in Marathon County here, with 14,000 people. Hotels were all booked within an hour of Wassa, so I just want to express a deep appreciation to everyone who did join us on that day. Thank you.
Supervisor Krause.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to announce that there is going to be a hotline for those who have suffered some rudeness, abuse, and injuries by Metro Ride bus drivers and have been treated rudely when they've called in to report such incidents. And that phone number, hotline phone number is 715-302-3851. Thank you.
Any other announcements and or requests? Being none, we are down to the infamous one, item number 11. Supervisor Sly with a motion and Supervisor Christensen with a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for all of the participants in the public. Thank you.
Come on, Erica.